Happy Thanksgiving, Cinephiles, and welcome to a very, very special introduction to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. My name is Steve Morris. I'm a filmmaker and directing instructor in Los Angeles, California.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Rokem, a writer, producer, voiceover guy, and host here in San Diego, California. And excited to be doing a special intro for one of our favorite films here, Steve, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And I don't know if you remember, but one of our fans actually put our faces on these guys in the poster, and it's one of my favorite pieces of Photoshop fan art that I've ever seen of us. But yeah,
I just went to look. So we recorded this.
yeah.
Whoa, 4 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, November 16th, 2017. It looks like. That's a lot. The world has changed
so much. The world has changed so much.
And yet,
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
And well, I was just thinking about, like, what does this movie have to say differently today that it did when we recorded this 4 years ago? And here's the thought that I had.
Go ahead.
So this is a movie about two people who are really obnoxious in their own special way, who really, really hate each other, hate everything about each other, and then come to care about each other and support each other, and in a strange way become family, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What I was thinking about is, like, we could talk about what Thanksgiving means to us and being grateful for things, or a completely fictitious version of the founding of America. Who could think about those things? But what it means to a lot of people right now, today in 2021, is they're going, how the hell am I going to spend a whole day with my family when we are on opposite ends of whatever spectrum you're talking about?
Yeah.
A lot of people are scared of this. And I suddenly went, oh, that is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. I mean, like, go, and the lesson is, like, you can completely disagree with someone and even find them obnoxious and still be family and still care about them, you know?
Yeah. Well, you hope so. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing that you see very clearly in this movie. Yeah. Because I mean, initially both men have opinions about the other man, right? And, and from the beginning, and both men feel like the other person is getting in the way of them getting to where they're going to go. One is a little more helpful. Obviously, the John Candy character is a little more helpful initially, but then you find out why he's being so helpful. You find out what his ulterior motive is, which is not negative, but it is to have some kind of company on the holiday because he misses his wife. Now, does he purposely set things up so that he can constantly keep Steve Martin around him? Not purposely, but certain things work out in certain ways, and he makes certain decisions that allow him to be in a certain situation. And so when you see him getting upset, or when you see him getting hurt by some of the actions of Steve Martin, they're from genuine places. I think of the doll monologue, but I also think of later when he's trying to pawn him off there when they're having food, and he's like, okay, all right, okay, yep, no, yeah, of course, sure, yeah. And so you see that already because there's judgment from both sides. And that's what I think that's a great point you make, Steve, because nowadays you see someone in a suit. Oh, they're the elite. They don't care about the small guy. Then you see the person in the kind of cheaper clothes or whatever. And they're seen as lesser than the person in the nicer clothes. And those are those, oh, he did terrible things. It's his responsibility, his reason, it's his mistakes that caused him to be in that position. And it's like all of that judgment. This is what we do now as a society, unfortunately. Judge, just so we can feel stronger. And I'm guilty of it too sometimes, just so we can feel better about our lives. Yeah, exactly. So those things are, we're all guilty of fucking judgments. And it's the horrible truth of life. And you're right, the film kind of exposes that. And both of them get screwed, right? Steve Martin with the Edie McClurg situation when he loses his mind, and John Candy when he's trying to pawn off that Casio watch to try to get the hotel. They're both are victims to their own ways of being.
Well, and what's interesting about this movie, I think, there's some movies where they're based on a misunderstanding. It's like, oh, you really didn't understand what was going on, and that's why you were judgmental. This is not a misunderstanding.
No.
Their judgments and criticisms of each other are pretty much 100% correct. And what's so good in the movie, I remember in our conversation that, I'm a little more of the Steve Martin type, and you're a little more of the John Candy type.
Yes.
But the thing about it is, like, you watch that movie, and even when the moment you're really feeling for John Candy, he does something so obnoxious.
Yeah.
And Steve Martin, same thing. The moment you're getting some sympathy, oh, maybe he is going to be no, he's not, is that the judge. But the thing I think that the lesson is we're all fucked up,
Yes.
and like you have to step beyond judgment.
Well, I think we're all a little John Candy and we're all a little Steve Martin from the movie. That's what I think, really, honestly. We both, like, it depends on your situation, right? You can be the John Candy person and you can absolutely look down on someone else who's got even cheaper clothes or a worser job or a terrible salesperson trying to survive and judge them. And someone above Steve Martin is judging that character for not having richer enough clothes, not having a better house, having to travel all this way just to get home when he should have a house in the city. Those kinds of things. We're always looking for things to divide us rather than looking for things to unite us. And I think now more than ever, because everything is so how can I say, it's just a bunch of hot coals that people are more afraid than ever to come together. People are more afraid to let their guard down. People are more afraid to accept each other. These political differences have really corroded what could be a celebration of humanity. Even Christmas has become a place of war, and you have to go, well, where is this?
Can you say the holidays, please?
Sure. I'm sorry. I apologize. Yes, the holidays.
Yes, Christmas. Say Christmas.
Yeah, fine. But it's become everything's been turned into a war. The war on this, the war on that. It's for ratings from rich people who don't give a fuck about anybody else. And sadly, that's what we're paying for nowadays. And this film can remind you that there is a better path forward for humanity if we just learn to accept each other, accept each other's differences. And hey, if you lose on the political field, it's okay. There's another game coming 2 years later or 4 years later. And so these are the things that I think a lot of people don't want to factor into their lives anymore.
I just want to point out, and I don't mean this as a criticism, but is that we're talking about, judgment and understanding people. And you did just say, and it's all because of rich people who don't give a shit about anybody else.
Well, I meant Rupert Murdoch. So I'm happily judge him.
Sure. But like that, but this is the thing is, again, it's looking at a structure from the outside and going and thinking, what's going on,
well, I'm not looking at it from the outside. If I've read enough articles from people on the inside telling you what's going on, then maybe I've got a little more of a point of view. But your point is valid.
But not all rich people don't give a shit about anybody else.
Absolutely right.
But this is what's so hard is, like, I think we become so binary in the way we look at stuff, that we just go. We get one piece of information about someone. We go, pegged him.
Yeah, I can put him there or her there.
Exactly. Yeah. And what's interesting just occurred to me: the more we think in binary terms, the easier we make it for someone else to peg us and put us in a spot because we made ourselves simpler.
Right.
I mean, it's funny. Like me. I think my politics are very liberal, but my outlook is very moderate in that I really obsessively look at both sides of things to the point where I irritate my liberal friends frequently, even though my politics are like in our previous short, I was criticizing Michael Moore, even though my politics are with him. But like, I really am uncomfortable with, cheap shots and things like that. I don't think they're useful. So they upset me, Yeah.
I totally understand that. I'm in the same boat, and I find we've kind of veered off the path so much, that even within our own political spectrums that we are a party of, or part of, we've gone too crazy, and we need to find our way back to where two men or two people, regardless of gender and race, can have an issue in a situation like planes, trains, and automobiles, and find common ground by the end. And it's whether it's connective tissue through love of wives, or love of significant others, or connective tissue of loving your jobs, or loving humanity, or just loving the experience of connecting with someone once again, and meeting a stranger and having that person become your friend. You just never know.
Well, what's crazy is I think in general, if you spend time with someone, you will start to care about them. That doesn't always happen, but it actually usually does.
Yeah.
And you will start to, if you could get past the craziness, you can usually see a little bit from their perspective.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's funny, like going like, I just saw a thing, by the way, that if you the economy right now is actually doing pretty well.
Yes.
A lot of job growth. Other than inflation, which is a very, very serious problem and is really affecting people, who are trying to make it to their Thanksgiving dinner and can't afford the gas or can't afford to buy that turkey. That's a big deal. I'm not saying that it's not. But in general, the economy is much better than we thought it would be, a year ago in the middle of this pandemic.
Right.
But people's perception of the economy is much, much worse. So if you ask people, you do a survey, how do you think the economy is doing? Terrible. Because that's how it feels. And so I think part of the reason I bring this whole thing up is if this is a holiday about being grateful, you're in a room with your family. Yeah, you disagree about a lot of stuff. The food's good. You're going to watch a football game. You're going to hang out. There's things to be grateful. We've survived mostly this pandemic. We've gone through a lot of tragedy. We're here. Like, there's a lot to be grateful for if we can look at the good parts and not focus on all the other stuff.
Right. Which is the lesson of the movie.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think with that, we take you back to John and I 4 years ago, and we hope you enjoy our conversation on the classic John Hughes. I will say, John, the greatest Thanksgiving movie ever made.
I agree 1,000%.
That is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Why are you holding my hand? Where's your other hand? Between two pillows. Those aren't pillows.
Hello and welcome once again to the Cine-Files, where each week we enter the world of a great film, we explore its themes, the history, the filmmaking, and the influence it has on us today. My name is Steve Morris. I'm a filmmaker and directing instructor on Los Angeles, California.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Roca. I'm a voiceover artist, host, producer, writer, blah, 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 all those things here in Los Angeles, California. I'm just trying to pay my bills. That's what I'm telling you. That's what I do in my life.
Look, those bills are coming.
Yeah, every month.
And I want to say to all of our cinephiles out there, Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I hope you are with your family.
Yes.
If that is what you enjoy doing.
Right. Not everyone enjoys going home.
Or perhaps away from your family, if that is what you enjoy doing. I hope you have a beautifully roasted turkey if you like turkey.
Right.
And I hope you have some delicious Chinese food if you want something.
And I hope you're not stuck traveling in Wichita.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Oh, my God. I'm going to be traveling this Thanksgiving.
Oh, good luck.
I think it's the first time I'm really going on a Thanksgiving trip.
Wow.
Going to be off in New York. Yeah.
I never leave for Thanksgiving.
Yeah?
Yeah, I only leave for Christmas.
Right, because you go back home to your family.
Yeah, to Virginia, yeah.
I have not had Christmas at my house in 4 years.
Wow.
And I really want to, and it keeps not working out for various reasons.
Oh, interesting.
That are complicated, yeah. Well, holidays, you know what? Holidays are tough.
Yeah.
And this movie we're going to do today is as tough a holiday. I don't know what the toughest holiday movie is.
This is pretty tough.
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is up there.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. And what our characters go through is fairly extreme. Christmas Vacation, also very tough.
Right, but Christmas Vacation is also outlandish, whereas Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, everything that happens in the movie, although it's an incredible amount of occurrences, is certainly realistic and possible.
It's going to push that.
Yeah, sure.
We push it a little bit. Sure. But yes, certainly most of it stays in the realism way. So do you remember how you first came to the film?
Oh, yeah. I saw this in the theaters with my family, ironically enough. Yeah. So, we definitely went to see it. And I was such a huge John Candy fan because Uncle Buck and previous earlier films from the 80s. Is Uncle Buck after this one?
I think it's after.
Is it really?
So, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe you're right. I thought Uncle Buck was 85. Yeah, I'm going to check real quick because I want to make sure.
No, we do not want to put out false information on the Cine-Files.
And I don't want Scott Mance coming on here. You guys got it wrong. Uncle Buck was 1954. No, Uncle Buck is 1989. You're right. It feels like a 1985 film, so that's interesting. But I guess I'd seen John Candy in SCTV. I'd seen him because I was just discovering those kinds of that kind of comedy, SNL, all that stuff. And so I'd seen Candy in small parts, The Great Outdoors, what have you. And then there was something about this film, and I was a massive Steve Martin fan from The Jerk and all these other things that had gone. So to me, it was great to just kind of see these two together. And it was in that time when I was transitioning from being a teenager, kind of moving, getting older, where I enjoyed Breakfast Club and I enjoyed Weird Science. This was more of an adult film. And so it was a joy for me to kind of go into this world. I remember seeing it with my family and just enjoying the hell out of it. And it's become a Thanksgiving tradition for me every year.
Yeah. For me, I definitely saw it in the theater, and I was a huge Steve Martin fan from the albums. Like I remember listening to those albums, and then seeing him on Saturday Night Live, and then obviously The Jerk and Man with Two Brains and all those movies, and in particular Roxanne, which I
Roxanne
love.
was fantastic.
I love, and then a absolutely huge John Hughes fan. I mean, Breakfast Club, which I really want to do sometime on the Cine-Files.
Yeah, definitely.
That was such an important movie to me, and 16 Candles and Ferris Bueller. I mean, those are just huge parts of our generation growing up. And John Candy, I knew less. I mean, I knew him, and it was funny. I went and looked. I was always going like, well, who should I do a little biographical information on? And I decided not to do Steve Martin. Okay. And the reason is because I know we're going to do some more Steve Martin. And he's really big. And frankly, I would have reread Born Standing Up, which is his great book about stand-up comedy. I didn't have time to do it. So I was like, okay, Steve Martin's out. I looked at John Candy, and it's really interesting. I didn't know he was a child actor. Yeah. I had no idea. Obviously, he's Canadian. SCTV. Did you watch SCTV?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mentioned that. Yeah, SCTV with Joe Flaherty and Andrea Martin and Martin Short and Rick Moranis. Who else was Dave Thomas?
Eugene Levy.
And Catherine O'Hara, I think.
Catherine O'Hara, yeah. It's funny. I remember seeing SCTV because first I discovered Saturday Night Live because that was sort of I got to stay up late, and late 70s, I started to see those things. Right. And then there were things like Bizarre. Do you remember that TV show?
No, I don't remember Bizarre.
That's a weird late night comedy thing. Okay. Things like Benny Hill. And so there was
Benny Hill, definitely.
I knew when Saturday Night Live was. And then somewhere in there, as I started to look for more things, I started to see this weird show, and I didn't know what time it was on, Right. And so just every once in a while, I'd start to see this SCTV thing, and it was just like 2 steps more bizarre than Saturday Night Live.
Yes.
And just going, well, who are these people? Right. And then I remember seeing like John Candy, who showed up in 1941. He's in
the film 1941.
In the film 1941, right. Not in the year.
Right.
He's not that old. And in Blues Brothers.
Yes. Oh god, it's so funny. Blues Brothers.
And then it's really in I think Splash and Stripes.
That's the
where
one.
He
Splash.
really like sort of appears.
Yeah.
And he's this guy. I was thinking about it of like the great comedians. Most of the ones we think about had a time where they reigned as the king of comedy. Whether it was Eddie Murphy or Adam Sandler or Will Ferrell or whoever, there's a moment where it's like they are the number one person.
Jim Carrey. Yeah.
Jim Carrey, exactly. But that's not true of John Candy. No. John Candy was kind of a second banana supporting character, and then a co-star in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and then Uncle Buck, which is his real big starring role. And that's, and then he passes away so young in, 94 at the age of 44. And it's just, it's scary now that we're older than he was when he passed away. And for me, this is his best performance.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. As much as I love Uncle Buck, there's more empathy and vulnerability and honesty.
Just really honest.
In his performance in this movie, and which juxtaposes nicely with what Steve Martin is doing, which is one of the most prissy guys you'll ever meet, but it's very difficult to play a part like that. And Steve Martin, who was known for being outlandish and breaking the rules and crossing lines in comedy, to play a very uptight guy, it took some skill as well as an actor.
I was thinking about that too, because I think that in a lot of ways, not with the assholeness of Neil Page,
right,
but in the introverted, closed. I think this is closer to the real Steve Martin than any other movie he makes.
Probably absolutely true.
Because he makes a reputation for himself as this completely huge, outlandish, over-the-top character. I mean, the way he became a stand-up is just all fascinating. Yeah. Because it's him surreally commenting on stand-ups. Right. There's all these layers to what he's doing, and then you look at movies like The Jerk and all these things where he's just playing these huge characters. Yeah. When he is a very quiet, introverted, somewhat neurotic guy. Yeah. And that's the reality of him. And I think some of the brilliance of John Hughes was his casting of these two guys to play these parts. Yeah. Because I think he found something, he saw something in these two people that maybe the rest of Hollywood had never seen before.
Right. And I think what's fascinating about John Hughes doing this at this time is because he'd already made his bread and butter off doing these teen coming of age movies. Right. And of course, Home Alone is in there. Isn't that John Hughes? Yeah. And
well, he wrote it.
He wrote it.
Chris Columbus directed.
Right. But still focused on a child doing his thing. So it's more younger. So I always champion John Hughes' older stuff when he deals with adults. Like that's what I mean by older stuff, when he's dealing with older people. because I love She's Having a Baby as well. And
I think I've only seen it once.
Oh, really?
I mean, I remember liking it,
Yeah.
but it wasn't one I went back to.
They just speak to a time in my life when I was transitioning and understanding what it meant to get older and be an adult and do it. And you have to start taking responsibility for stuff. And you see that in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. You have to like learn to work with people and be with people you don't necessarily 100% enjoy being around. And then when She's Having a Baby, you have to kind of be an adult and put
Face
away
up
the
to your
childish things. Face up to your responsibilities. So both of those films are films I come back to all the time to just remember and enjoy and laugh from connection and understanding, and also from enjoyment from the performances of the characters in the movie and the scripts, which are hilarious.
Well, and John Hughes is one of the, I don't think he gets the credit he deserves.
No, you're right.
You know, it's like they're filmmaking, because as we talked about lots of times in the show, we tend to elevate the person doing the great drama, the great epic, the great artsy fartsy, you know, and we tend to, you know, not give as much attention to someone who's doing the wonderful comedy.
Yeah.
And John Hughes, so he comes out of Chicago. I didn't realize that he was a joke writer. He wrote jokes for Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh, wow.
And then he was like, I need to get a real job, goes into advertising and was quite successful. And I think there's like a big Gillette ad campaign that he did. I mean, he's like, and it's not till he's 30 that he goes, all right, I got to stop doing this. And he starts writing for the National Lampoon.
Oh, wow.
And he's writing articles and essays. And after Animal House, everybody is looking for what's the next movie to come out of the National Lampoon.
Right.
And so suddenly they're asking him to write screenplays. So the first two screenplays he writes are Mr. Mom and Vacation.
Wow, I love Mr. Mom and Vacation.
Yeah, these are two great. And then the next thing he does, it goes, well, he watched them and went, man, this wasn't exactly what I wanted them to be.
Yeah.
And so that's when he decides he wants to direct to protect his own writing, which is a very common thing for as I well know, from like, this must be exactly as I want it.
Right. That's ironic because both those films are very well loved.
Very well loved.
And so it's interesting that he, felt they didn't come out the way he wanted them to.
Well, but directors are, that's what they are. They're control freaks. That's why they're directors. Say, I have this vision and this has to be, sometimes it's as much as a 2 frames or a pause or just an interpretation of a line that makes a difference.
Yeah.
And so he goes, the first script he's developing is actually Breakfast Club. And then he's having actors come in and audition, and he meets Molly Ringwald, and everyone said that she's really his muse for like the first. And he goes home and writes 16 Candles in a weekend for Molly Ringwald.
Wow!
Because this is a guy who wrote fast. He every script he wrote in 4 days, in 5 days, in a week. And what he would do, he would write a whole script to see if he liked the idea. So he'd blast out 100 pages in a week, and then he would read it and go, "Nah, this doesn't work," and he would throw it out. And then if
scriptwriters are slamming their heads in the wall right now,
it just like drives me nuts as I struggle over every fucking phrase. He's just blast. But then what he would do is once he wrote it, then he would rewrite and rewrite and rewrite.
Of course.
And so 16 Candles became the first thing he made, followed by Breakfast Club, which for me that was like one of the most important films of my teenage years was Breakfast Club, and then he's making 2 movies a year because between the 1984 and 87, he does 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, Weird Science, Pretty in Pink, Ferris Bueller, She's Having a Baby, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah.
That's 3 years.
Yeah.
3 to 4 years, he does 6 movies. That's amazing.
Right.
And they're all so important in my childhood.
Yeah.
And yet, even though he's making these really important films for us, he's not getting good critical reviews. People are panning his movies.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's part of why he decides to go do She's Having a Baby in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a way to show them that he could do it more adult fare if he needed to. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about pre-production. Sure. It's funny. One thing though is like before we do these films, I always listen to commentary. I do whatever's on like the Blu-ray, and then I read Wikipedia articles and I look elsewhere to find out information to talk about on the show.
Yeah.
There's not that much information about this movie. It's just, unlike things like Apocalypse Now or Jaws or Star Wars, where there's endless fascination with how the movie is made.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound, people didn't have a lot to say about Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And so I was worried as I was coming here, like, oh, there's not going to be so much to talk about. And then I was driving here just thinking about the movie. And the more I thought about the movie, the more I found things to talk about. Things that are just really interesting about the film. Not like backstory or pre-production or anything like that, but just like it actually brings up a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So briefly on pre-production, this all comes from the fact that this happened to John Hughes. Is that he was flying back to Chicago. He gets routed to Wichita, and it takes him 5 days to get to Chicago. So not that everything in this film happened to him, but that's where it begins with. He wanted to do more adult stories. He cast Steve Martin and John Candy right away, and then he does what he usually does, which is once he casts actors, then he goes back and rewrites the script to fit those people.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, because now he's got particular voices in his head, and he goes, oh, no, John wouldn't really say that. Steve wouldn't say that. And that the characters become more formed because of that.
Right.
And what was interesting, too, once they were cast, John Candy and Steve Martin sat in on all the auditions. Wow. And read with all the people coming into audition for the film. Isn't it?
Can you imagine that nowadays? It would never happen nowadays.
But they just loved the script.
Yeah.
They loved it. And both of them said, like, from the beginning. And of course, what Steve Martin said is, like, it took me 4 years to write Roxanne. You wrote this in 4 days.
But the thing that's great about what you're talking about, Steve, is you can see that kind of love through their performances, and you can see that kind of love in their interactions, and also in how they approach the movie. You can tell that they enjoy doing it.
So should we get into the movie?
Yeah, definitely. Let's do it. And I've got a big theory over this whole movie, but let's talk about it.
I can't wait.
Yes.
Tell me when you are ready to lay out.
It's probably right at the beginning, but let's get into it.
Well, we start looking at a watch, and we're in an ad executive meeting.
Remember those watches, those gold with the space in between the bars? It was supposedly cool in the 80s.
Very, very cool. I had a watch I loved so much, and it was like, I think it cost me $50. It was like a $50 watch.
Wow.
And it was like from my parents, like a big gift that I had picked out, and that was big money.
Yeah.
And I wore that thing all the time. I thought it was the coolest. It was a Seiko.
Yeah.
It was very cool.
Not a nice Casio.
It's not a nice Casio. And we are waiting for this guy to look at these pictures for some meeting.
So let's talk about this. And I want to present the theory now.
Yes, I'm ready.
Because I believe there is a John Hughes verse. Before there was ever a Marvel universe or DC Comics universe, there is a John Hughes universe. The guy looking at those pictures is the father of Elizabeth McGovern, and she's having a baby.
Oh, my God.
The guy across from Steve talking to him is Ferris Bueller's dad.
Yeah.
It's all set in Chicago. So is Ferris Bueller. So is She's Having a Baby. So is all. So
all the movies are.
All the movies are set in Chicago. So to me, this is entire multiverse. And when we get later to Kevin Bacon, he is out there, still a young guy trying to make his name like he is, and She's Having a Baby. So to me, the entire universe exists. And somewhere Ben Stein was fired from his teacher job, and he is now working at the airlines.
And Edie McClure is no longer.
You're right, because she got kicked out. So, or that's Edie McClure's twin sister from Ferris Bueller. So to me, there's a whole. So this is where it begins for me, and I have nothing but pleasure as I watch the movie, thinking in my mind that this is all in the same universe. These are all stories from the same place.
Yeah, I whether or not they're the same actual characters, although I'm kind of like in my mind now, Edie McClure is talking about Thanksgiving with her twin sister.
Right,
that's who she's on the phone with.
That's what I think.
So I love the theory, but regardless, you always feel in this John Hughes world. It's very much in his, and again, you go into like, well, what makes someone an auteur? What makes someone an artist? Well, John Hughes is John Hughes. He's existing within a very specific world. Yeah, I totally agree. So Steve Martin wants to get the hell out of there. This guy's taking forever. They really emphasize this. Have you been in this meeting?
I've been in this meeting before.
Oh my God, me too.
Yeah,
it's like, dude, it's just like you like it, you don't like it.
Yeah,
let's move on. But you're trapped by your boss, and that's what you got to do. And we're waiting and waiting. We see the highlight on his plane ticket that's at 6 o'clock.
Right.
And finally, this guy ends. And there's even these moments of he's about to say something, does not say anything. Finally, we end up out of the elevator. He never said anything. And now Steve Martin's got to rush to make this plane.
Yes. And the guy says to him, "You'll never make the 6.
You'll never make the 6.
But that's Ferris Bueller's dad. He's like, "No, I'm going to wait till 8 o'clock." Like, he's got no rush to get home. He's chilling.
No, his kid is homesick. Yeah, what does he care?
What does he care?
Wouldn't it be great if this was the same day? That
like
as they're in here, Ferris Bueller is on a float singing Donkey Shane.
Certainly possible.
All right, I'm really starting to like your theory. So he gets outside. He's got to get a cab.
Yeah,
not easy to get a cab in the middle of New York.
Chicago.
No, you're in New York.
You're in New York. That's right. Sorry, in New York. Yeah, to go to Chicago. Right.
Yeah, to go to Chicago. Can't get a cab. Right. Almost gets a cab. Some other guy's trying to get the cab. So what's he obviously going to bribe the guy? $10, $50. The guy, I love the guy, accepts $50 and then says he's about to give him $50. He says, well, someone who could give $50 could obviously pay $75. Oh, that's a dick move.
There's lawyers.
Yeah, he says, I'm a lawyer.
Yep.
Exactly. And so he makes the deal for $75, pays the $75. Someone else has gotten in the cab,
right?
And the cab is driving away.
Well, I don't want to skip over the Kevin Bacon part, which is really great because I love that.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah. I love that because I love that sequence because it's a way of like getting you back into the John Hughes. Like, it's so great that Kevin Bacon would come in and do this small part. And I don't know, if they'd already started pre-production on She's Having a Baby or what was going on that time, but to see him show up, basically playing the same part he's playing in She's Having a Baby, and then running down the street and he beats him for the cab. To me, that's the first. I think that was John Hughes' way of saying, like, this is a different kind of film. This is not going to be one of these kind of feel-good, like, teen angsty films. Kevin Bacon is the faster guy. He's the younger guy. He's the quicker guy. He's leaving him behind. And I think he's saying something there. And that's just me maybe reading into it, but I think he's saying something there. It's more than just a fun little back and forth.
Well, and it's definitely, this is the beginning of the Steve Martin beatdown.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. So Kevin Bacon, it's weird. I think they shot She's Having a Baby before Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Right.
But released it after.
Yeah.
Because in IMDb, it's the year after, because what Kevin Bacon says is, I had so much fun doing She's Having a Baby that I said to John, you got a bit part for me. Anything you want, I'll come do it. And that's how this happened.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's so funny. He is so young and good looking and Kevin Bacon-ish in this era.
The smirk is everything.
That is a power. That's a power smirk.
Yes.
So he doesn't get the car that he paid money for. It starts driving away. He chases the car down the street.
Hey, that's my cab. That's my cab. Come here. Come on.
Steve Martin has a funny run.
Yes. I don't know if it's on purpose, but it certainly works for the character, that kind of frustrated, stick up his ass kind of run, where everything is angular, almost like Roger Craig from the 49ers. If anyone remembers the kind of high-stepping run that he does. But before we get to that point, the reason Steve Martin loses the first cab to Kevin Bacon is because he trips over Del Griffith's trunk, which is, once again, a kind of precursor to what's going to happen into the film. What's going to happen is that Del Griffith is constantly going to be in his way of getting to where he's going.
So funny. Because this movie so much better
I really
than I
do. Yeah,
you really do, because I haven't seen it in 15 years.
Yeah.
So it's like and it's one of those movies where I did watch it a lot from like 1987 to 1992.
Right.
And then maybe once since then, I don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so keep on me.
No, it's okay.
If I'm missing it,
We're great. I love it.
So he catches up to the cab, he opens up the door, and we get our first glimpse of John Candy. And he just screams at him.
Yeah. By the way, my dad had that hat for years.
Really?
Yes, the cream or beige colored hat that he has wearing at I was like, I couldn't believe it. And I to this day I believe it's because he saw it in the movie, he loved it, and he bought it and he wore it for years.
That's awesome.
That's my belief.
That's hilarious. We get to the airport and Steve Martin arrives on the bus.
Yes.
Not pleased about the bus. Rushes through the airport, sprints through at full speed, gets to the gate. You cannot do this anymore.
No, you cannot.
There's no like, my plane is leaving in 20 minutes. In 10 minutes, I've arrived at the airport. I'm going to make it on the plane.
Right. Even without a carry-on.
No, that reality does not work at all anymore. And, of course, the flight is delayed. Calls his family, tells them, I shouldn't be later than 10. Don't worry.
Right.
We, of course, already know that this is never going to happen because we've seen the trailer for the film. We know it's not going to work out that way. We're waiting, and who is he sitting across from but John Candy?
Del Griffith.
Reading
a very uncomfortable sexual novel.
What's it called? I could never quite get the title.
Oh, God, what is... That'd be a great Schmodown question. That's a 5-pointer if I ever heard one. Oh, geez, it's something like, I don't know. It's like The Hustler or something.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Clearly something in the erotic
Yes,
realm.
it is. And I used to work in bookstores right at the tail end when they stopped selling those. But yes.
And
just brazenly reading that in the middle of the airport, no big deal.
No, well, I don't think that Del Griffin has a lot of sense of how his actions might affect other people.
Right.
That is not his strong. He has many strong suits.
Sure.
But that is not one of them.
Agreed.
And Steve is staring at him, and then John is staring at Steve, or Neil is staring at Del, and Del is staring at Neil, and they're staring, and then he realizes who it is.
Yeah.
You stole my cab.
I've never stolen anything in my life.
And I think this is key to the movie, which is how do we interpret the events that have happened to us?
Yeah.
And Steve Martin immediately interprets it as this guy maliciously stole my cab.
Yeah.
And of course we know that's not true.
Right.
Del Griffin would never maliciously steal someone's cab.
He's certainly the first one to tell you that.
Yeah. He obliviously took the cab.
Maybe.
And really the problem is the cab driver. Do you think he did purposely steal the cab?
See, I think Del is a little more passive aggressive than people want to believe in this movie, and I think
there are certainly moments.
Yes, and I think he's such a sweet guy, but he's also a guy who will take advantage of a situation and then try to maybe
sweet his way
he's a bit of a child in that way that
yeah, you're right.
That's what I feel like, because throughout the whole movie there are certain things he does that, like, if he's a regular fully functioning human adult male, he wouldn't do or accept, but he does because of this whole situation, because of the way he is.
Well, and this is the thing the film is going to do throughout the whole film, is you cannot permanently side with anybody.
No.
You'll have moments where you're totally with one of them.
Sure.
And then you'll just be like, oh God, what have you done?
Right.
And Del at that point wants to make it good. Like, let me buy you a hot dog, let me buy you a beer, let me buy you, and Steve Martin is trying to nicely-ish say that's not really what I want.
Right.
I'm kind of picky about what I eat. Some coffee. No. Milk? No. Soda? No. Some tea? No. Lifesavers? No. Slurpee? Sir, please. Just let me know. I'm here. I knew you.
I knew you. I love that. And it's great, the costume. Like, the costume works really well too. The clothes, I think, is really great. You have to give a shout out to whoever did the costume design, because he's wearing a yellow shirt with a brown tie and that vest, or that sweater vest that he's wearing. It does not radiate someone of money or power or status. Whereas Steve Martin's in a very nice suit,
beautiful suit,
hat, briefcase, leather briefcase. The whole, even though it got run over by 2 cars, it's still there. And so you get that sense that he is from they're different social strata, definitely, and the way they approach things. Plus, he's a larger man versus a thinner man. So this whole thing is working like a Laurel and Hardy kind of thing.
Well, and I think they even put Steve in suits that are slightly big for him.
Yes.
To emphasize his skinniness.
Yes.
He makes him look skinnier because the clothes are kind of hanging off him. We get on the plane. Steve Martin has a first class ticket. He's not getting a first class seat.
And according to the stewardess, he doesn't.
And again, now we see this side of him, which is like, dude, you are not understanding how to get along with people.
Yeah, no.
Like, he is not, this is not the way.
Right.
Like, it is, and this is it just in general, and we're going to see this throughout this movie. One of the things that drives me nuts is people that attack someone in a lower power position when it is not their fault.
Right.
It's like that. The reason your food is late is not because of that waiter.
Right.
The reason that your, computer isn't working is not because of the technical support person you're talking to. The reason that you're having a problem with your bank is not the teller.
Right.
Don't yell at them.
Right.
And it's so not useful.
Yeah.
Like, that is not going to help you get that first class seat.
Exactly.
I have had just about enough of you. Now take your seat.
Oh, you've had about enough of me. First you delay me, then you bump me. I can't wait to see what happens next.
Is this a coincidence or what? Have a seat.
And Dallas wants to make friends.
He does. Which we find out in retrospect. Obviously, later he's a lonely guy, and he talks too much. He's all these kind of things because he's so desperately to make connection with people he respects, people he likes.
Well, and this is one of the things I was thinking about watching this is the extrovert introvert problem.
Yeah,
which is that. So who? I'm not going to ask who you are between these two people.
Depends on the day.
Yeah.
It really does. There are days that I feel like Steve Martin, and I'm prissy about shit, and I'm like, why isn't this getting done? Why are these people delaying stuff? But I never yell at waiters. Like, I agree with you that I hate doing that shit. And there are other days where I feel like Del Griffith when I'm around people who are of higher status. I feel this, like, sometimes nervousness to talk too much or to connect too easily or laugh too quickly. And so I vacillate from day to day what it is. I like to think I'm somewhere in the middle because I am.
And what's interesting is, like, when we asked it, because I asked that question and you answered a totally correct answer about not the things I was thinking about, because you were talking about status and getting angry at people, which totally are what's going on in the film. Absolutely. And I was thinking about the extrovert introvert thing.
Oh, well, I'm certainly an extrovert.
Yeah. And it's like me, particularly on an airplane.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to anybody.
Oh, no. On an airplane, I'm a phenomenal introvert.
It's like I have my book to listen to, and I have, like, all I think is I get to be alone for the next 5 hours and just listen to my thing and play video games and not deal with humans in any way. And if a stranger sitting next to me goes, hey, how you doing? I'm like, oh, fuck.
Right.
Because I don't want to be rude,
right,
but I do not want to talk to you.
I agree. I try to limit the amount of conversation I have in any public transportation.
Yeah.
I do, because I just want to kind of just take that moment to unwind my mind and relax for a little bit.
It's like you get in the Uber and the guy says, "Hey, how's your night going?" You know, I just had. I'm like,
shit.
And look, people are lovely, but I don't like them.
Right. Well, I'm not saying that, but I am saying that, like, when I take it on a plane, and it's one of the greatest things I ever discovered. Those Bose noise canceling earphones.
Those are amazing.
Some people make fun of me at my job and other places where I walk around wearing them, but that's my way of keeping my mind straight. And it's like, it's so important, and I can't believe they're the greatest things I've ever discovered in the last few years.
Yeah, my wife has a pair. They're amazing.
Yep.
They're amazing because because I'm an introvert.
Yep.
I heal in private time.
Right.
Whereas extroverts, tend to, if you need to get some energy, you need to go out with people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I need to be alone.
Right.
And then I'll feel better. But the other way, the way that I feel like Del, I'm a big guy.
Yeah.
But unlike Del, I am hypersensitive about being a big guy on a plane. I will do everything in my power to never be in the center seat.
Right.
Because that's imposing my size on other people. I always try to be on the window if possible, and I will scrunch into the window and keep my arms up the whole flight. Well, because I don't want to be someone imposing on someone else's space.
Well, you and I are different, because I feel the same. I feel like I'm a big guy myself when I get on a plane, because I have these big shoulders that can cross armrests.
Right.
So I hate to sit in the middle, and I hate the window. See, I like to sit in the aisle because it lets me stretch out a little bit more. And I don't mind the stewardesses bumping me with their carts. I'd rather have that than imposing myself on someone who's sitting in the middle seat or someone who's sitting in the window seat if I'm sitting in the middle. So the middle seat is the worst fucking thing for me, man.
It's terrible, because then I feel like how Del looks.
Right. Well, you feel 5 times bigger than you actually are.
And I don't know if you've ever gotten the look, like I've walked to the seat and someone, and they go, "Oh, you're going to sit next to me." And I'm like, look, I literally will cross my arms for a 5-hour flight in order to not be a jerk.
Right.
You know? But Del takes it to a whole other level.
Yeah.
He takes those shoes off.
Oh, that feels good. Oh, God, I'm telling you. My dogs are barking today.
Takes the socks off,
and then flails the socks.
Oh my God, it's so good.
John Candy is so funny in this movie.
Yeah,
what he does in this scene is so funny.
Oh
yeah. Oh, my dogs are barking. That's great.
By the way, the old guy is sitting next to Steve Martin.
He's in tons of stuff.
Yeah, he's the grandfather in
16 Candles.
Yes.
This is 16 Candles.
Yeah.
That's where he's from.
So like he just has, that's what I'm saying. It's the whole John Hughes verse.
Is he flying back to Chicago for Molly Ringwald's birthday?
Probably. See what I mean?
No, we got to keep this theory
going. Well, not Molly Ringwald's birthday, because they forget that in 16 Candles.
Oh, right. He's flying for the wedding. He's flying for the wedding.
Right.
By the way, I don't think we can ever do 16 Candles on Cine-Files.
No, I can't. I don't want to do it.
There's real problems with it.
Yep. Breakfast Club happy to, but 16 Candles never.
I loved it as a kid, but
and Breakfast at Tiffany's we're never doing, if I have anything to say about it.
I believe that you have
50%.
50%.
Yeah.
49,
okay,
50. Yeah, 50% vote. Of course, we have to discuss what Del's job is.
Yes.
Traveling shower ring salesman.
How you get to be a shower curtain ring salesman? I don't know. Did they have that back then?
I don't think. Well, have you known traveling salesmen?
Kmart's were around that you could buy shower curtain rings.
Well, but part of it is, so one of my family's closest friends, he was a girls' dress traveling salesman.
Wow.
And he drove around with a station wagon filled with the whole back with, teenage girl dresses, and he would drive up and down the West Coast selling them to stores.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So there were traveling salesmen but shower rings?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a funny.
And he never checks in with his job.
No.
Never checks in with anybody ahead of him or his boss say, "Hey, I'm stuck in Wichita. I'm doing this, doing that." He never checks in with
Well, you got a lot of free move. That's why people take the shower ring salesman job, because a lot of freedom, independence.
Sure.
We're in the dark on the flight. Of course, both heads end up on Steve Martin, and Candy has the great line, opens his eyes and says,
$6 and my right nut says we're not landing in Chicago.
because, of course, Chicago is snowed in.
Right.
Cut to Wichita.
Wichita.
Have you been to Wichita?
Never.
Me neither.
Yeah, I know some good songs that have Wichita in the title.
Sure.
But I've never been to Wichita.
I'm sure it's got good barbecue.
Sure.
I've missed a lot of the middle of the United States. I've been around the whole top East Coast bottom.
Right.
But I've been to Missouri, but I haven't, like Iowa, Kansas, Arkansas. I've not been in all those places.
One of my goals in life is to have 2 weeks to drive across country to see those states.
It's the best.
I definitely want to.
Well, I don't know if those states are the best, but have you done the cross-country drive?
With my dad when we moved out here to L.A. from Virginia. Yes.
It's amazing.
But we did it from the lower part of the country, not the middle part of the country. So that's what I want to do.
So in 95, Karen and I drove from Los Angeles up through the top of Oregon, across the top of the U.S. into Canada, Niagara Falls, Maine, and then drove down the east and back along the south.
Oh, you did a whole square.
And it was like 7 weeks.
Wow.
And it was astounding.
Wow.
Yeah. It was like one of the most amazing trips ever.
That's great.
Okay. But Wichita. And immediately, Steve calls his family, and then John Candy, Del, is right up in his business, asking personal questions, talking about his wife.
His way of trying to connect. It's clumsy.
It is really clumsy.
Yeah.
As Steve does not like that. And he gives some wonderful advice, though. He says, like your work and love your wife.
Right.
That's lovely. Steve Martin is not interested in hearing it. And John Candy also predicts, this flight is canceled. You got to trust me.
We'd have more luck playing pickup sticks with our butt cheeks than we will getting a flight out of here before daybreak.
Moment later, we got Ben Stein.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? I'm sorry to announce that we're canceling Flight 909 due to severe weather in Chicago.
It's the smile he gives that is so... There's this weird glee.
Oh, yeah, he calls ahead. He goes, you got on the phone with your wife.
I got on the phone with the something in.
Yeah, the something in. And he's got... Maru says, if you pay the cab fare, you can have a room for the night. Because he has a friend who is a manager of the hotel. Or the inn, rather.
Question. Does he really believe that he can get him his own room? Or does John Candy at this moment already know they're probably going to spend the night in a room together?
I think he's not smart enough to know that he can't get him a room.
Probably what I think too.
Yeah, I think he thinks he can get him a room because John Candy, Del Griffith rather, always thinks he can deliver more than he.
And he's always optimistic.
Yeah, he's very
got
optimistic.
A very sunny disposition about life.
For a guy with a lot of pain, he's incredibly optimistic.
Yeah. And so they get in a cab.
If you want to call it that.
Man. So we watched it last night with my son.
Yeah.
This was his first R-rated movie.
Oh, wow.
Because I looked at it, I'm like, look, all the R rating is because of like 28 fucks in a row.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that'll be fun.
Right.
And Jack started going, that's like an evil cab. That guy looks like a vampire. And I was like, you know what? I think you're correct.
Yeah.
This is a sign of everything is an opportunity for some comedy. And John Hughes totally understands this.
Right.
We can have it be a normal cab ride.
Sure.
But why not have it be an awesome demonic lowrider with a creepy guy in the front seat?
With uncomfortable pictures of naked women on his fucking dashboard. What I love also is this speaks to Del Griffith's sunny disposition. And the guy says, why didn't you take the highway? Well, he said the guy's first time here. I thought he'd enjoy taking it. He's like, what? It's the middle of the night. And he says to him, the guy's proud of his town.
Right.
That's kind of a rare thing nowadays. And it struck me as I was watching this movie now, this time, Steve, is this red state, blue state thing that we have now in 2017. And it's interesting. And you're watching in Steve Martin, an elitist blue state stereotype typical guy.
Absolutely.
Right? And yet there are people who are probably going to take advantage and, whatever, and they'll do whatever. But John Candy's approach to it is seeing the better side. Why? Because we have to learn to live with each other. And this is so interesting that the film kind of accidentally 30 years later has another message underneath it that maybe wasn't there before. And so it's just fascinating.
I think that is such a great point.
Yeah.
That is so, absolutely. So on this trip, Karen and I went on, we ended up in Bend, Oregon. And Bend, Oregon is a, medium, small sized town. And we're heading off towards Idaho. Mm-hmm. And we stop at a gas station, and in Oregon, there's no self-serve, so someone fills up your tank.
Right.
And the guy comes up, who's an older guy, it's his gas station, and he says, how you doing today? And I was like, I'm okay. And now where are you heading? Where'd you come from? And I'm like, well, I came from here. We're heading, to go up to these mountains and do this stuff. And he goes, now, so... you could drive in a nice car. Like, how's it going? He just starts chatting with us. And I'm going as a urban guy from the West Coast going, why is this person talking to me?
Yeah, fill up a tank.
But the reality was he genuinely was nice.
Yeah.
And genuinely cared and wanted, and it's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's the East Coast, West Coast sensibility against the middle of America sensibility.
Yeah.
And it's happening right in this moment.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, I kind of think that cab driver was not happy to just show the town.
Of course, he's taking advantage of them a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
We show up at the motel, and Gus does know Del, and they laugh, and they get along right away. And this is that Del, with a certain kind of people, knows how to get along really well.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's great.
He's a salt-of-the-earth guy.
Yep, and we're going to take the credit cards, and credit cards come out, and this is a plant that takes a long time to come back, is that Neil gets the wrong card.
Right.
And it takes so long to come back that you're going like, wait, why has this not had a consequence for a long time? Unfortunately, there's only one room left in the complex they're going to have to share. They walk into the room. There is only one bed.
Dun.
And there's like a great long pan from the bed all the way up to John Candy's smile. And
uncomfortable gay jokes ensue.
Yes.
Yes. So
the world has changed.
Sure.
I don't think you would make this joke today.
Maybe.
But, I don't think you and I have ever slept in a bed together.
No, but I sleep with Shannon every year at Comic-Con.
There are lots of guys at Comic-Con in particular. Yeah. It hasn't come up in a long time, but there was a time where, that was sort of normal. And there's certain rules about sleeping in a bed with another guy.
Yeah.
And the rules, I hugged the edge of my side of the bed. There was generally not contact. If there was contact, it was incidental and never discussed.
Yeah, never discussed. And quickly moved away from.
And we're kind of going to get into that situation.
Yeah.
And it's funny. Maybe, the world has changed, and maybe 19-year-old guys who are going to Comic-Con today, or 22-year-old guys, maybe they're not having the awkwardness.
I'm sure they're not.
It's just different.
Yeah. But once again, we're dealing with, like the prissiness of Martin slamming up against the more homeliness of Candy's character, of Del Griffith.
And I meant to ask this question.
Yeah.
You're at the airport, okay?
Yeah.
Your flight is canceled. Del Griffith says, I can get us a motel.
Yeah.
Do you go with him?
No.
Me neither.
I would have stayed and slept in that's what I think is prevalent throughout the whole movie, is this idea of they each make choices based on this desire to have the best possible outcome.
Right.
As opposed to sacrificing a little bit so that they don't have to be stuck in a situation they don't want to be stuck in.
Yeah.
And so for me, I would have absolutely slept. I've slept in an airport before.
Me too.
If you find the right place, you can sleep comfortably. Because we're human beings and we can adapt to situations, right? They talk about that with your body temperature. Like your body temperature, once you get past a certain wall, your body temperature will adjust to cold or adjust to heat or adjust to whatever. But you have to power through those moments where it feels like you're not going to be able to make it. Once you do, then you're fine. And I don't mean like Titanic and shit. I'm just talking like when you make adjustments, your body will adjust. So you yourself will adjust to situations because your will to survive is stronger than your will to die.
Wow.
I just mean like that's...
I agree. I just I didn't know we would get to your will to survive versus your will to dive in plane, trains, and automobiles, although it is kind of appropriate.
This is why I'm single, man. I think about things too much.
No. Yeah. You think about things too much.
I'm an over-analytical fuck. Yes. Yes.
Welcome to the Cine-Files.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Two over-analytical fucks chatting about movies.
Just the logo.
For me, it's just like... it's not that bad. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like, okay, now I'm going to have a shitty night at the airport.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't really care that much.
Right.
It's like I will find a hot dog and I will find a book.
Hot dog. I love that.
You know what I mean? Like this, I will find a chair and I will make it through this night and it'll be fine.
Get me a fucking hot dog. Listen, I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
in return. Why does Steve Martin say yes? Knowing who Del Griffith is.
It's really... Well, one of the basic questions, and this is a question that came up, strangely enough, in like as opposite a movie as possible, but Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
Yes.
Which is why don't they leave? And that in order to keep Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf going, we must keep that young couple in this situation that is horrible.
Yes.
And we must keep Steve Martin here. And when he tries to leave, we must bring him back. That's what's going to happen throughout the film.
Yeah.
And I think you said it. It's that prissy quality of he is looking for something that is up to his status.
Yeah.
And so he sees a guy sleeping on the floor in the airport and he goes, I cannot be that person.
I'm beneath that.
Yeah.
Or that's beneath me.
That's beneath me.
Yeah.
And or I just can't handle that.
Yeah, sure.
And so he goes, okay, I'm going to go take the gamble of being with this guy who I don't like in order to get a bed.
Right.
And this is just, and it's so funny because this is just naive to me. It's like, no, there's nothing there.
Right.
Like, you don't know. And yes, Dell does seem to make good predictions about what's going to happen.
Yeah.
In terms of how long it's going to take for the flight cancel and all this stuff. But for me, I don't trust that guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what the weather is.
Which his wife tells him later.
Yeah.
When he tells him, I spent the night with a guy, a stranger. She goes, you spent the night with a stranger at the airport or from the airport?
Yeah.
So are you crazy?
Well, it's not even that I don't trust him in terms of he's going to kill me.
Right.
I don't trust his information about snowstorms, flight cancellations. Like, you don't know that stuff.
Yeah,
You know, I'm just going to stay here, be close to the plane in case they open it up and I can get on a plane.
Right.
But then we wouldn't have a movie.
Right.
So we're in this room. Dell's in the bed or getting ready for bed. Steve goes to take a shower. Good physical comedy with the soap and the eyes. The bed, of course, vibrates.
I love oh, come on. Who hasn't had that?
Steve Martin is so funny.
Yes.
And yes. And of course the water comes on and it's hot.
Right.
All that stuff is really funny. And then he gets out of the shower and it is a complete mess.
It's a pigsty.
Yeah. Which means several things.
Sure.
First of all, Dell is not polite.
He's not considerate.
He's not considerate.
Necessarily.
Second of all, did Dell come into the bathroom while he was in the shower?
No. I've never thought that.
How did Steve not know that the bathroom was a complete
God damn, that's a great point. Maybe Dell came into the shower. Well, there's a newspaper on the ground, so you know he took a shit. So certainly possible that he went into the bathroom while he was showering and did his not shit, but like did everything else.
Used up every towel, water on the floor.
Used up every towel. That's a crime, dude.
It is horrible.
That's a crime.
So here's another philosophical question.
Yeah.
And this I might maybe I've asked you this before at some bar at some point.
Sure.
But okay, you're a guest in someone's house.
Yeah.
Should you bend over backwards for them, make sure to make your bed in the morning, be very clean, kind of live within their world, and make it as easy for them as possible because they're being so nice as to put you up in their house.
Yes.
Or B, you're a guest in their house, you're traveling, they should really take good care of you and show you a good time because you're on vacation and they should really bend over backwards for you.
The first one.
Okay. You're having a guest in your house.
Yes.
Should you A, bend over backwards for them because they're on vacation and you want to show them a good time and make sure they get to do everything that they want and everything's good for them?
Yes.
Or should they B, bend over backwards for you because you're nice enough to put them in their house and they should kind of live within your space?
No, the first one.
Right. I would say I've asked this question a lot.
Yeah.
80% of people answer exactly how you did.
Yeah.
And what it is you are bending over backwards in both circumstances.
Yes.
Your standard switches whether you're the guest, which is logically totally inconsistent.
Inconsistent?
It's totally inconsistent.
Okay.
Because what you're saying is that this, and I feel the same way. By the way. I answer exactly the same way. Yeah. What one would expect is if I go, well, the guest should be considerate, then I would think that the host should be going should think, well, they're the guest, therefore they should bend over backwards for me.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Because you should have the same standard, but what your standard is, which is what mine is in both circumstances, you should be extremely considerate.
Of course.
Because you and I are considerate people.
Right. And I don't want to put an expectation on them to behave the way I would behave.
Exactly.
That's why I have that inconsistent logic.
But what's interesting, I find, two things I find that are interesting about this. One is that most people answer the way you and I did, which is this weird, I'm going to bend over backwards in both positions. And yet...
But I don't think that's weird if 80% of the people, it's the 20% that are weird just by definition. We're normal.
Okay. Well, no, yes, you're right. Okay. I don't mean that we're weird in that we're abnormal. I mean that it's interesting that logically we're not abnormal. We do not have abnormal brains.
No.
Is that there's this strange logic gap because your behavior bends over backwards in both circumstances.
Yes.
And what's also interesting is there's this cognitive dissonance because obviously people don't really behave this way.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Is that people are not actually behaving the way they think they're behaving. It's like the thing where if you do a survey and say, are you a below average driver, an average driver, above average driver, or an excellent driver? All of these surveys show that 80% of people think that they are above average or excellent.
Yeah.
Which is impossible because that's not how average works. And in fact, men in particular say they're above average or excellent.
Of course they do.
And men but the most dangerous drivers in the world are like men between 16 and 25. That is the most dangerous drivers there are. And so so first of all, we have this weird logic thing of going, I would bend over backwards in both directions.
Yeah.
And this cognitive dissonance thing where obviously that can't possibly be true.
Right.
Del has no idea he's being inconsiderate.
Certainly possible.
He doesn't like the fact that he would use all the towels, have water on the floor, do all the things that he's doing. And yet, as we find out throughout the movie, he really likes this guy.
Yeah.
And wants it, but he cannot understand while waving his smelly sock might be a problem.
Yeah.
Is a real cognitive dissonance.
Well, the other possibility, and I know we're just really going, we have so much more of the movie to talk about, but the other possibility is that Steve Martin was he expected Del to have a certain level of courtesy because that's what he's used to.
That's what he's used to, yeah.
But he didn't even survey the bathroom when he walked into it. He just kind of got undressed, jumped in there, and jumped in the shower and didn't even think to look around. And by the time he did, when he got out of the shower, he discovered
That's definitely a possibility. And if it is, then he's an idiot.
Yes. Well,
always check for a towel.
Of course.
Like this is not like
I've stayed with 3 or 4 other guys in a hotel room. I always check for towels.
Check.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to.
Yeah.
All right. So
now that we spent 20 minutes on that fucking scene. Yeah.
Well, this is why I say the movie got deeper as I was driving over here.
Yes.
So we get into bed together. Apparently we've exploded a beer can on the bed.
Oh no, we haven't.
Well, Del has.
Del's a stupid ass turns on the fucking vibrating bed and leaves the beer cans on the bed. And I love Steve Martin saying, or Neil Page saying to him, the bed was vibrating. What did you think was going to happen to the beer cans?
By the way, who likes vibrating beds?
Back then they did in the 80s.
That's not something I want to sleep on.
I'm just telling you. Water beds too were a thing. So
we got some knuckle cracking, some sinus clearing. It goes on and on. And then Neil has had enough.
Yeah.
And he gets up. And this scene is, I had forgotten that this scene is as early in the movie as it is.
Yeah.
He just lays into Del. And it is.
It's been building.
Oh, yeah. And Del calls him. I love Del's line of,
Gee, if your kid spills his milk, what do? Slap him in the head?
He calls him a tight ass. Neil says, "How would you like a mouthful of teeth?"
Oh, violent too.
Yeah,
what a combination.
and then Del let him pay for it because he thought that would make him feel better.
That's a lie.
That's what I was going to ask. That really goes to your earlier point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Del takes advantage of situations like a child. He does.
Well, who told you to book a room? I did, out of the goodness of my dumb old heart. Boy, you're an ungrateful jackass. Well, go ahead, sleep in the lobby, see if I care. I hope you wake up so stiff you can't even move.
And then Neil just destroy, and it goes on and on and on.
I mean, didn't you notice on the plane when you started talking, eventually I started reading the vomit bag? Didn't that give you some sort of clue, like, hey, maybe this guy's not enjoying it? You know, everything is not an anecdote. You have to discriminate. You choose things that are funny or mildly amusing or interesting. You're a miracle. Your stories have none of that. They're not even amusing accidentally. Honey, I'd like you to meet Del Griffith. He's got some amusing anecdotes for you. Oh, and here's a gun so you can blow your brains out. You'll thank me for it. I could tolerate any insurance seminar. For days, I could sit there and listen to them go on and on with a big smile on my face. They'd say, how can you stand it? And I'd say, because I've been with Del Griffith. I can take anything.
That's why the scene works, Steve. Because John Candy, Del Griffith, does not come back at him. It does not become an argument between both of them. Initially, he puts up resistance because he gets out of... He when the lights turn on, initially Del Griffith is mad or upset, and so takes his shots at Neil, and then Neil shoots at Del in a way to destroy him. As opposed to have a back and forth, Neil goes to the core of who Del is as a human being, and that's what he destroys him at, and that's why Del stops. Like, he can't retort that because he's probably heard that before from a number of people, probably his wife.
Well, and we see the reaction shots from John Candy.
Oh, man.
And the pain.
Fantastic acting, dude.
Really, really good acting.
Yep.
And Neil does not see it.
Not until
It takes a while.
Yes.
It takes a while. And this is the thing that we'll see from Steve Martin's character, which is that controlled, explode.
He's a tea kettle the whole time.
And there's all that pressure in him. He's holding it in, holding in, and then it comes out in this completely horrible, awful way.
Yeah.
And then Del comes back with,
You want to hurt me? Go right ahead if it makes you feel any better. I'm an easy target. Yeah, you're right. I talk too much. I also listen too much. I could be a cold-hearted cynic like you. But I don't like to hurt people's feelings. Well, you think what you want about me. I'm not changing. I like me. My wife likes me. My customers like me. Because I'm the real article. What you see is what you get.
oh, it's so good.
It's a great line, fantastic delivery. You can see the tears in his eyes. And yes, his wife likes him. I mean, that retort is like so powerful. And then he turns around and gets back into bed. But what does he do? When Steve Martin is sitting there feeling guilty about the whole situation.
Yeah.
By the way, I love the Chatty Cathy line. That's just fucking brilliant. But like Steve, and this is what great the movie does, or what's great about the movie is you have this shot where you're looking at Steve Martin and you can tell that he's feeling terrible about the back and forth. And then you have this quick shot of Del, and Del is looking over his shoulder as if, like a child, are you going to come back to the bed and make me feel better? He is a child throughout the whole movie.
Oh, yeah.
The quick look he takes over his shoulder is to make sure if Neil is paying attention to the fact that Del has gotten back in bed, and what he said has worked on Neil because he does not want to stop being friends with him. He does not want him to leave the room.
It's so fun. I'm so glad, because you know this movie so much better than I do, is that I think you're 100% right, and I didn't see all those details watching it. Yeah, I really didn't.
But this is why I
the
love
manipulation of is that because I was seeing all of Steve Martin's stuff,
of course,
but the Del, like, I didn't think about that look back. But you are 100% right. He is manipulating him passive aggressively. I need you to now come comfort me.
Right. But he's not a bad person. It's just the way he's built.
Well,
right? That's the thing.
They're both troubling people.
Sure.
I don't think
they're both troubling people.
They're not bad people.
No,
I don't think any of them are committing crimes.
He's got a beautiful wife, great kids. She obviously loves him.
He loves his kids.
Right,
He loves his
kids.
wife.
Yeah.
I think Del loved his wife. I think Del does
very much
care
so.
about his characters,
Yeah.
His customers, all that stuff. But they're just fucked up. I mean, they're just fucked up people. All right. In the middle of the night, this robber comes. Robber steals all their money.
By the way, you're skipping over the masturbation, but okay.
There's masturbation?
What? Steve Morris. When he gets back into the bed, Del Griffith turns on the vibrating thing and starts to... Oh, no, actually not before he gets back into bed. It's before he does the sinus thing. Del Griffith is reading the novel again, the salacious novel he was reading in the airport. And then he starts... You hear this... And that's him masturbating.
Okay, I got to go back and look at the scene.
You really do.
So, listen, we try on the Cine-Files to really know a movie.
Of course.
I didn't miss that. Maybe because I'm sitting next to my son.
You try to really know the movie really, really well. Every once in a while, I know a movie a little bit more than you do, but only because I've seen it a million times.
This one clearly.
Yes.
All right.
But anyway, so there's a litany of things that Del Griffith does in that bed that causes Steve Martin to blow up like he does. So anyway, yeah. So
by the way, had I known that, it makes Steve Martin getting out of that bed but that is not
of course.
So like the difference in knuckle cracking and sinus clearing is an entirely different level of someone masturbating in a bed next to me.
Right.
Someone masturbates in a bed next to me, I'm getting out of that bed.
Yeah. I hope I'm getting the chronology right. I think it's either before he jumps out of the bed or it's after he gets to bed. Neil feels comfortable, or Adele feels comfortable. Neil's back in the bed.
I think they go to sleep pretty quick.
Okay.
I think they go to sleep pretty quick.
And then they wake up.
Now we'll have to check.
And then they wake up.
Oh,
one of the best wake ups in any film ever.
The song is Back in Baby's Arm.
I'm back in baby's arm.
Del's snuggling up.
He's kissing his ear.
Gives him a little, very sweet kiss. It's a very, very sweet kiss on the ear. Oh
God.
I love the pan across the two bodies as we get up. And by the way, they had to do that over and over again because they kept breaking up.
Of course.
I mean, and Steve Martin opens his eyes. This very slow realization asks,
Del. Why did you kiss my ear? Why are you holding my hand? Where's your other hand? Between two pillows. Those aren't pillows.
So great.
This is one of the great uncomfortable, awkward moments in film.
Yes.
I also think about the physics of it, is that it's like John Kennedy's a big guy.
He is.
And to get your hand, you have one hand wrapped around someone, and the other hand's going to go underneath and up. That seems tough.
And which hand masturbated?
Oh, Jesus.
There's so much here, Steve. So when they by the way, my best friend, we've spoken about him in the Heat of the Night, Maurice Jones.
Mm-hmm.
He's the city manager of Charlottesville, Virginia. This is something we always use these lines with each other playfully. Like we always, sometimes I will text him. I go, the Bears got a hell of a team this year. Hell of a team. That's pseudo kind of, that's that kind of, which is so funny when you have initially, when they walk in the room, they have the uncomfortable joke about, are you going to shower with me? Yeah, right. Then when you come later, they really get their comeuppance in this scene where they have to like do this whole thing of like, oh we're not gay. We're not gay.
Establish our masculinity.
Yeah, right.
It's funny.
It's so primal.
I really hope maybe that's gone. Maybe that is anachronistic now.
Okay.
And I don't know.
I like the humor of it.
Oh, it's hilarious. I'm saying that again, like 25-year-olds would look at this and go, what's the big deal?
Right.
I hope
not.
I hope that the movie is still funny.
Okay.
But I also hope that this issue of proving your lack of gayness, which was something that we grew up with, it doesn't exist anymore.
All right.
I hope for a lot of peace on earth. And,
all of that. Sure.
So we have that moment.
We can't have comedy with peace on earth, though.
That is and fortunately or unfortunately, we also can't have peace on earth.
That's right.
So that's not happening.
Okay, go ahead.
We can improve.
Sure.
There's always going to be stuff that are horrible that we can make fun of. We have that moment that you talked about where his wife goes, "You stayed in a motel with a stranger at the airport."
Yeah.
And now we're sitting at a diner. Steve says, "I'm going to fly standby." It's not going to work.
We have to stop for a second.
Yeah.
Because he goes back into that bathroom after having that interaction.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
And he sees Dell's socks have been sitting.
Well, first he's washing his face.
Right. He's washing his face, and then then he looks down and sees Dell's socks have been sitting in the sink. And Dell yells at him and says, "Hey, if you see my socks, and will you pull them out before you brush your teeth?"
First, he wipes his face with the underwear.
With the underwear, that's
then
right.
Dell says, "If you see my socks in the sink."
Anyway, just great.
Again, but this is the thing. So we, spoiler alert.
Okay.
What we discover. Should I spoil the end of the movie right now?
No.
Okay. There are things about Dell's life that explain a little bit about why he does this.
Yes.
Is that the way he's been living makes this make a lot of sense.
Right. Of course it does. All right. So we're back in the diner.
We're in the diner. Neil goes to pay his bill, opens up his wallet. All his money is gone.
Right.
Who the fuck carries $700 in their wallet?
Back then they did, I guess.
That is a lot of money to carry around. I mean,
they didn't have bank cards back then or ATMs?
Sure they did. 87?
In 87?
Oh, yeah.
ATMs?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, look, so maybe we should check this as well.
Yes.
But my memory is that ATMs were like the 83, 84.
Wow.
That is my memory of them.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% sure on this.
Fair.
If we were the ATM file or the Finance Files podcast, we would know better.
I would not be on the Finance Files.
That would not be your show.
No.
Me neither.
I would be a student. I would not be.
And what does he think? What's the first thing he thinks when all his money's gone?
He thinks that Dell has stolen the money.
Right.
Yeah.
And Dell says, "Here, look at my wallet.
Yeah.
It's also empty." And which to me is like you're going to put the money in your wallet?
Right.
But then they believe like we've been robbed.
We were robbed.
Do you think so?
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
That's a great that's a Steve Martin. That's not Neil Page. That's Steve Martin.
Yeah.
Gee, do you think so? That's a Steve Martin, which I love.
The Steve Martin jerk voice, not the voice from the movie The Jerk, but him being an ass is awesome.
Yeah.
It's just really funny. And we talk about the credit cards we have, and we're going to go out. Where are they heading now? Are they heading to the train? They're heading to the train.
Yeah, the train.
And so Gus, the guy who owns the motel, his son is going to come pick them up in a truck.
So, yeah.
Truck pulls up. This is a great character entrance.
Dylan Baker.
Who you see him in everything.
Yes, in a million things. This is the first thing I ever saw him in, and I will always remember the. That's just brilliant. That noise,
really good.
I've always been able to do that noise. When I saw him do it, I was like, "Oh, I got to learn how to do that."
Well, and this is this thing that we've seen with the cab driver. We've seen with Ben Stein is that every supporting character is an opportunity to do some comedy.
Yeah.
Like we're not gonna, and this is I was saying it relates a lot to what we saw in No Country for Old Men with the Coen Brothers.
Yeah,
is that every supporting character is gonna be this fascinating, interesting slice of that person.
Right.
And this guy, Dylan Baker, man,
he's so good.
And his wife,
his wife.
Whew.
She don't mind. She's short and skinny, but she's strong.
She gets out when she slams the door. I love that.
Well, because he says, "Get your lazy behind out here and put that trunk up in the back."
Right now, that's uncomfortable.
And you're like, "Oh my God, he's a horrible, abusive person."
And Steve Martin and John Candy feel that way too because they're like, "Oh no, we'll take
it."
Yeah.
But then the way she gets out of the truck says that no, she can put that trunk up at the back.
And I love what he said. Like her first baby came out sideways. She didn't scream or nothing. Once again, that's that Midwest thing versus the prissy,
Yeah. We're in the back of the truck. There's a dog in the hay.
That's so great.
Have you been in the back of a truck or in a convertible on a really, really cold day?
Yes.
It is cold.
Yeah.
It is cold. I used to have a convertible.
The wind does not help.
No. And there's a great shot of them after, faces frozen.
It's a stage shot, but I love it.
Well, this is where, you said, like this movie is realistic, and it's like, well, it pushes it to a silly place.
Sure.
But this is the movie we're in. It's totally works. We get to the train station. Steve Martin, Neil has gotten tickets. He says they didn't have two together. Yeah. Lie,
maybe.
We don't get to know if it's a lie. I think it's a lie.
Well, John Candy gives him the out too by saying, Del Griffith rather says, like, oh, she was a new girl. I told her, I thought she understood, blah blah blah. So he plays it up too, but he thinks that they're still going to see each other afterwards.
Right. He wants to get his address and he says, oh, the ticket's a gift. Happy holidays. And this is Steve Martin trying to end it on a nice note.
He does this numerous times in the movie.
Like I'm let's just be nice about it.
Yeah.
I don't want to be, but I don't want to hurt your feelings.
Right.
I mean, he already did enough to do that the night before.
Right.
And he gets to the train. What surprised me when he gets in the train is that the first thing he does is he talks to the person sitting next to him.
Because he's amongst his own people.
He's not his people.
Well, she's in a situation. She doesn't. She's like, what does he say to her?
I don't remember.
Okay, he says something that's like
small talk.
But it's not. But it's small talk. It's not like, oh God, my dogs are barking or anything.
Right.
He's communicating. He sees she's reading a book that's like not a CD book, and so he feels a kinship, and maybe even because he's a dad, he feels even more of a kinship.
She's young.
Yeah.
The thought that I had, and I don't know if this is true, is that maybe Del has gotten his hooks into him a little bit, and that there's something that he goes
certainly possible
subconsciously, like, oh, I actually kind of liked talking to someone.
Maybe.
I don't know. It's an odd moment.
They both change each other, that's for sure.
There's no question about it. Yeah. And then, of course, the train breaks down.
Of course it does.
Steve Martin's reaction shots throughout the whole film are fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, he is such a good reactor. And we get out of the train, and Del has grabbed his trunk. We know that it's like a mile you got to walk.
Right.
I've been in this situation, too. I've been in the train that breaks down, and you got to go walk across the...
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I've never been in that.
Twice. Once when I was a little kid in Alaska on a family trip.
Holy
a train
shit.
broke down, and we had to walk across a long thing to get to some place to wait. And another time on another trip, where it's like, oh, there was another train coming to pick us up, and we had to walk out and go find the other train.
Yeah.
So anyway, and there's this moment where Steve sees Del dragging the trunk.
Yep.
Del sees that Steve has seen him dragging the trunk.
What does he do?
And what are you going to do?
Yeah, he makes that face like, oh, this is really hard. Oh, could you use some help?
Well, and it is really hard. I mean, like, and he could use some help.
Sure, if you say so.
But you've chosen to have a trunk.
Yeah, it's your you made a choice.
That trunk is not easy to travel with.
If we could get even more sinister about the movie, does he do this constantly? Does he bring this trunk on purpose?
Oh, shit.
I read a theory once that his wife's remains are in the trunk.
Oh, Jesus.
That he takes her with him wherever he goes. And I mean, in ashes. I don't mean like her body and some shit. I just mean that's why the trunk is so important. It's like Marcellus Wallace's briefcase. We never see it. We do see it open. But we never see what's in there. We never see what's in Del Griffith's trunk.
Now it's got a real... Someone should cut a scary trailer.
Yes.
A horror movie, serial killer trailer. Get some Silence of the Lambs music.
Yeah.
We get to the Jefferson City bus station.
Steve does not want to help him, but does anyway. Does not want to, but he knows he's got no choice.
You have to. I would too.
Yeah.
At that point, you have to help him.
Right.
You can't not help him. Right. And Del has a great moment as they're waiting for the bus. You ever traveled by bus before? Your mood's not going to improve much. So I was going to ask you this.
Yeah.
So far, we've traveled on planes. I know you've traveled on planes.
Yes.
Have you traveled on trains?
Yes.
Have you traveled by bus?
Yes.
Yeah, I've only traveled, I think, twice on an actual Greyhound bus.
Bus is the fucking worst, man.
Yeah. In other countries, it's not so bad. It can be nice.
Too. Yeah.
But Greyhound bus in the United States, I love trains. Like an Amtrak train, that sounds great.
When I was in the military serving in Augusta, I would sneak out on the weekends. Did it twice because there was a girl I was seeing in Virginia at the time. I think her name was Hope Ann Jones. Jesus, I can't believe I still remember that. But
shout out Hope Jones.
Shout out to Hope Ann Jones. I took a train, or a bus rather, from Georgia to Virginia. It took a day just to see her for half a day, and then got back on another bus that night and roll all the way. So I would not be late for the Monday morning roll call when you come out on. So yeah, that's how much I loved her at the time, man. Craziness.
Yeah.
And traveling by bus is nuts because anything can happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Dell is eating, and they do this thing which they do, which again is what I'm paranoid about, is that Dell is overcrowding Steve Martin in this horrible way.
But he's got the window seat this time.
He does have the window seat. There's a couple making out, and we have the why don't you take a picture, it'll last longer. I was trying to find out, is the first one of those Pee-wee's Big Adventure?
I think so.
Yeah.
In film, at least.
That's the only first one, because now it's a thing. It's just a quote that happens all the time. We start singing songs. Steve Martin comes up with a song. I have one. He has 3 coins in a fountain. It's so sad.
Once again.
He tried. I guess. He tried. He didn't understand.
You can't read the room, man.
Yeah, you got to be able to read the room.
Yeah.
And I would sing the Flintstones song.
Sure.
It's great.
Of course.
Who doesn't like the Flintstones? And we get to St. Louis, and Dell has a great plan to make some money.
How do you do, man? My name is Del Griffith. I'm with the American Light and Fixture Company, Jewelry Division, and I've got the deal of a lifetime for you. Do you have a minute?
He's a good salesman.
He really is.
Selling some shower rings.
I love the Darryl Strawberry signature.
I like they're filled with helium, so they're very light.
Very light, yeah.
It's very funny.
Oh, and then they go and...
They have dinner.
Right.
They have a meal.
Right.
Well, Steve calls home, and there's the Thanksgiving pageant, so he doesn't reach them. Then we end up having our meal, which I'm assuming Dell has
paid for.
Right. And Steve has this moment, or Neil has this moment of...
I've been thinking that when we put our heads together, we've really gotten nowhere.
And watching it again for this podcast, which damn right I was going to watch it again for this podcast. I love that movie so much. John Candy's reaction is just as powerful here as it is in the room.
In the room, yeah.
Every time Steve tries to, and this is a breakup conversation.
Absolutely.
I've had this conversation. I've been on both sides of this conversation. It's terrible. It's a breakup conversation. And you can tell he is so hurt by what Steve Martin is doing, by what Neil is saying to him, because he thinks they've gotten really far together. And Neil does not agree in any way, shape, or form. And that really hurts Del Griffith.
Well, and more than that, he thinks they're friends.
Yes, good point.
And Neil does not.
Man.
No, I really think we'd get to where we're going a lot faster if we were alone.
Okay. I see. I think I'm just going to take care of this, and I think I'm going to get going.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
it's just harder for 2 people to travel,
Yeah, sure it is.
And if you got reservations?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
His yeahs are everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, I get it. Yeah, it is a way of protecting himself.
Yep. And I ask you this one too: Have you had a situation where someone thinks they're your friend, or at a higher level of your friend when in fact they're not?
Sure. Yes.
That's tough.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough one. Mm-hmm. And I think I know I've been on one side of it, and I think I've been. I'm assuming I've been on both sides of it. It's not easy to say to someone, I like you, but I don't like you.
Right.
It's not easy to say. Someone says, hey, do you want to hang out? And you're kind of like, not really.
Yeah.
That's really hard to do. And Steve is trying, to his credit, to do it in a nice way. But there's no nice way to do it. Yeah. And John Candy's reaction, or Dell's reaction, is so great. The whole scene of getting out of there and him like, here, take some money. Neil's refusing the money, and we'll just leave the money here and all that stuff.
And then he steps up, steps out. His sweater is unkempt, and he picks up the briefcase. He shook his hand or something, and then Steve Martin, because he knows he's doing the wrong thing the whole time, and even at the end, he tries to make himself feel better by saying, "I'll see you." And as Del Griffith's about to exit frame, he says, "Yeah, I'm sure you will. Sure you will. Rather, sure you will."
I don't know. So, do you think Steve? I think so. This is if you go into like, when do you leave? I actually think Steve Martin is doing the right thing.
You do?
I do. Well, just not the right thing in hurting this guy's feelings. That's the wrong thing.
Right.
But like, you're with this person. It's been torturous. Saying, I don't want to be with this person anymore. I want to get home. And it hasn't gone well.
But look at the circumstance. You're doing it just as he sold all these shower curtain rings to.
He shouldn't have sat down to dinner.
Exactly.
Yeah,
he shouldn't have sat down to dinner.
That's doing the wrong thing.
Right.
Is that
he took the free meal.
The minute they got to St. Louis, he should have said, if you're in a big city, you have a credit card in your pocket, at least you think you do.
You think you do.
Is that you just go somewhere else.
Right.
Right. Just like go, hey, thanks. It's been great. I got a friend. I got a brother who lives over down the street in St. Louis. I'm going to go do that. We'll see you later. Exchange. Give him your address. Who cares?
Sure.
And leave. But you sit down to dinner and then break up with him. Not cool.
That's the worst.
That's.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to us, don't go to dinner with someone on their dime to break up with them. Agreed.
Not cool.
Yeah.
If you're going to break up, you should pay.
Just break up. Yes.
So Steve goes out to pick up his rental car. How did he rent the rental car?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because he doesn't have a credit card.
Yeah.
I think. I'm a little confused. The credit card, he has the Diners Club card.
Yeah.
But he also mentions a Visa.
So he has a Visa.
So he has the Visa.
Right.
Okay. So he rents it. So he's going to pick up his rental car because the rental car is not there. The bus drives away.
Oh.
His freak out.
Full meltdown.
It is so... Nobody could do this like Steve Martin.
Nope.
That is a Steve Martin patented freak out.
Yes.
It's fantastic.
You're messing with the wrong guy!
Absolutely. And I love it. It's so good. And he's throwing things, and you get one of my... Because I have the soundtrack still, and I love it because it's that...
You're messing with the wrong guy.
Yeah. That whole, like... Which is what he used in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I think it's the same yellow, whatever it is. Those people who did the yeah, that thing. So it's the same people, and they.
I didn't realize that was yellow.
Yeah.
And he does one terribly stupid thing, which is he throws the rental agreement.
Yes.
And then the bus goes away. Now I know, and you know, that the bus comes back every 10, 15 minutes.
By the way, the guy driving the bus is one of the actors in the club in Weird Science.
Oh.
Yeah. Because he's like,
you're right.
And this is again in the.
You know who it is?
Yeah.
It's also, I think it's the same voice as the guy in the dump truck at the beginning of Terminator that we just did.
Oh, might be.
Yeah.
Certainly
I
possible.
think this is that. It's that kind of voice. And then he does, which I have done this too, which is I see the place I'm supposed to go to. I'll just walk there, and not realizing that there's like a drainage ditch, a bridge, a fence between you, and you're like, it seemed like a good plan.
Airports are the worst thing to walk to, man.
And then you get halfway through, and you're like, oh, do I go back a half a mile or do I climb this fence?
Right.
Not knowing what's going to happen. And of course, it all goes wrong. Down the hill, through the snow, through the water,
over the river, and through the woods,
through the runway. He finally gets back at his entrance back into the terminal with the tie wrapped around his head, his face all bruised up, his shoes all messed up, and he's waiting in line for Edie McClurg.
Yeah.
Oh, Jean Marie, you're a stitch. No, Mom's gonna do the turkey. Yeah, Dad wants ambrosia, so I guess we gotta get those miniature marshmallows. And I'll do the crescent rolls, and you do the cranberries. You know I can't cook.
She's special.
Yeah.
She is such a special voice, hilarious character.
Yep.
And the thing on the phone, that's improv. That's of
course it is.
The Thanksgiving thing is improv.
She's talking to herself.
And this
is
is
a version of herself.
Someone talking on the phone and smiling and giggling when there's a long line of people.
Yeah.
That is not cool.
Nope. Personal calls at the job are not cool.
Not cool. Yeah. Particularly when there's a line.
Right.
And particularly on a holiday weekend when flights have been canceled, you should not be doing that.
Right.
How Steve Martin treats her
is terrible.
The explosion that comes out of him, and this is why it has an R rating.
Yeah.
There's nothing else in the movie that would give it an R rating. It's just like 23 fucks in a row or something like that. It is amazing.
Welcome to Marathon. May I help you?
Yes.
How may I help you?
Start by wiping that fucking dumbass smile off your rosy fucking cheeks. Then you can give me a fucking automobile, a fucking Datsun, a fucking Toyota, a fucking Mustang, a fucking Buick, 4 fucking wheels and a seat.
I really don't care for the way you're speaking to me.
And I really don't care for the way your company left me in the middle of fucking nowhere with fucking keys to a fucking car that isn't fucking there. And I really didn't care to fucking walk down a fucking highway and across a fucking runway to get back here to have you smile at my fucking face. I want a fucking car right fucking now.
And then there's a long pause, and she starts scratching her head with the pen, and she asks for the rental agreement. He says, "I threw it away."
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy, what?
You're fucked.
Perfect response.
It's perfect.
And does the whole, the fake sympathy, and then demolishes him.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Yeah. Which is the correct response to the irate customer at that moment.
Absolutely.
Someone who treats you like that, regardless of her being on the phone.
Right.
Nobody should treat anyone like that.
I agree.
He goes back outside. He's trying to get a cab or a car or something.
Yeah.
And
he's still pissed.
Still pissed.
Hasn't learned the lesson of not being an asshole to people who can help you. He goes, I got to get a car. Where are you trying to go? Chicago. You ever try the airlines? You get a free meal. And he says to him,
If I wanted a joke, I'd follow you into the John and watch you take a leak.
and the face change is so powerful. And he says, so are you going to help me? You're going to stand there like a slab of meat with mittens on. And he punches the shit out of Neil, which he has deserved since the beginning of the movie. A nice, good punching.
Well, and this is because this is the thing about Neil, and it's why you can never get behind either of these people.
No.
Is that the stewardess on the plane?
Yeah.
None of these people deserve your abuse.
Right.
Like Dell, maybe a little bit.
Sure.
But not this guy. You just walked up to this guy. He made a
Right.
joke. He gets knocked into the middle of the street. Car runs up, almost hits him in the head.
Second time he's almost been run over.
Yeah. Who's in the car? Dell Griffin.
What I love is as you see Steve Martin falling in the street, in the background you see Dell driving the car like a maniac. He is going left to right and then rolls in because he is trying to get out of that airport as best as quick as he can.
That
you can see it. You can see it. And he just goes, and he almost slides up and hits Steve Martin's head.
Yeah.
So
and they go, help me get him into the car, which he does apparently by his crotch. And we're in the car. I've never seen a guy picked up by his testicles before. And Steve Martin, of course, has helium voice, which I think we've discussed on the on the podcast before. Yeah. It's not realistic. Nobody talks like that after getting hit in the balls.
Okay, fair.
I've never gone like this.
Yeah.
Mostly go, oh.
Have you ever been grabbed and held in the ball and then dragged up into a car?
No.
Let's see what happens after that.
I've been kicked pretty hard.
Oh, yeah.
Jumping, spinning sidekick in the balls while I was doing a jumping crescent kick.
Ugh.
Yeah.
No thanks.
The whole world went white. That was just really bad. Yeah. Okay. So we're in the car.
Yes.
And later that night, Steve is now driving. John Candy's adjusting his seat. This goes on a long time, and it's very funny.
Great physical comedy.
And the funniest one is where somehow he adjusts the seat left to right.
Yeah.
Which that doesn't happen in any adjustable seat. Steve Martin thinks he's going to break it. And again, they go leave the shoes on, and it must be so perfect to be so perfect and odor free. And then now John Candy has to come up with something to insult Steve Martin about,
right?
Or insert Neil Page about, and it's that he plays with his balls a lot. Okay, you know the movie really well. Have you seen him play with his balls?
No, not once of the whole movie. If anyone played with his balls, it's Dale Griffith.
And he says, Neil says, you know what I want? He says, another set of balls and an extra set of fingers.
That's great.
That's hilarious.
I love that and the line about Larry Bird doesn't play with his balls as much as you do. doesn't do as much ball handling as you do, which is brilliant.
Later on, we've switched again. Steve Martin's like, you broke the seats. It slams him up in the windshield. Again, the physics, I don't think that's actually possible.
Okay.
But it's still really funny.
Yeah.
It's just, he says, remind me, I'm putting my wallet in the glove compartment.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's like you're in a horror movie and you say, I'll be right back. I'm going to go to the closet by myself.
Or a war movie. Can't wait to get back. First thing I'm going to do is have a steak.
Yeah.
Blam, headshot.
Just one more day till my retirement.
Yes.
Just don't put your wallet in. You know what kind of movie you're in? And then he goes to sleep, and man, Del puts on, we got some music playing. He's playing the Mess Around.
Yeah.
Ray Charles.
Love that song.
You can talk about the pit, barbecue. The band was jumping, the people too. Mess around.
John Candy's performance in this song of singing and dancing and eyes closed, playing the piano on the dashboard and the saxophone.
He's having a grand old time.
It is hilarious. Apparently, Neil Page is a very deep sleeper. Because again, this goes into, this is not cool, John Candy. Don't do this.
Yes.
And while he's doing this, his one sleeve gets caught on the chair.
Yeah.
And then the other sleeve gets caught. I haven't had this happen. I've had things like this happen while driving.
Yeah.
Like I'd taken my shoes off and I had my shoe get caught under the brake.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, okay, and having to go, how do I get that shoe out from under there? Which I did. But never to the extent of both arms trapped.
Yeah.
Driving with your legs.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I've had struggles taking my jacket off while I'm driving, certainly, but nothing that got caught.
Yeah.
But there is a fear. There's that fear, especially since the movie. I have this fear every once in a while.
You had to, don't play the mess around. I would say that's really the solution.
That's right.
And when he's smoking cigarettes and throws out a cigarette, which ends up in the back seat. So we know that's coming. Finally, with some huge effort, takes the park off, spins the car out off of an exit ramp, of which Steve Martin sort of gradually wakes up. Hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
Oh, we almost hit a deer.
He says, oh, well, you should take that park off. It's getting hot in here.
They get back on the road the wrong way.
Yeah.
We got a little cut of some trucks coming. And then this is something I quoted for years.
Oh, yeah.
People on the other road going, you're going the wrong way. And they say, how would he know where we're going?
Yep.
Joking, they're drunk. And then suddenly, there are the trucks.
This is what sets the film apart for me. These little sequences.
They're great.
They're just so funny, man. They go through the two trucks, and they see them in skeleton form, screaming, and then you see Del Griffith turn into the devil.
Neil sees Del Griffith
turn into the devil because that's how he thinks of Del Griffith. Del Griffith is essentially the devil
Satan
in his
at
mind.
this point, yeah.
He's trying to kill him.
We get through the trucks. We slam on the brakes. The trunk goes flying, and we're in the aftermath, and we have the fingernails dug into the steering wheel.
Great stuff.
It's really funny. We go off to, and again, Del goes to pick up the stuff. Hey, and again, Neil has to go help him because you have to. Del tries to laugh it off. Well, we survive. We should laugh. That is totally me, by the way. Oh yeah, and when things go horribly wrong, I'll just start laughing, and it is not always appreciated.
No, I'm sure.
A lot of people are like still in the moment. I'm like, well, we're through it, and because to me, it instantly becomes a great story. That's how my brain works.
Fair.
A lot of people I've been with, it's like, stop. I've got to mourn what just happened.
I can't wait till you're a POW and you come out after a year with other POWs. Well, we survived that. And that,
I don't know.
That was insane. Dysentery.
Let's hope we never have to discover it.
Yeah, let's hope.
So they sit down on the trunk. And I love that they're backlit by the flickering flames of the fire first. So the audience is ahead of them on the joke. Del looks, then looks back.
Right.
Neil looks, no reaction. Then they both look. Now they're both laughing.
Yeah.
And I love that Neil's reaction is, you finally did it to yourself. Good luck turning the car in. And then he says, wait, how did you rent the car? You didn't have a credit card.
And here, now,
this is your point,
What does Del say? He lies through his fucking teeth.
He gave her some shower curtain rings.
Right.
You can't rent a car with shower curtain rings, Del. Well, somehow your Diners Club card wound up in my wallet. And I just...
You stole it!
Not exactly.
You stole
no, I swear on my life I did.
You stole it.
I did not
you
steal
stole
your
my
card.
And then you rented a car, and then you burned it up.
I did not. I found it in my wallet.
I knew you stole it.
I thought you put it there.
Why would I put it there?
Kindness?
And this is where I totally agree with you.
He's known this for the whole time.
The whole time.
Del
well, he says, I thought you were just being nice to me. That's
bullshit.
a lie.
No,
That's
it's a
bullshit.
lie.
And the thing is that's a crime.
Yes.
You just stole money from Neil. Yeah. And that's where we push it to a different place. But of course, what did he do? He put the credit card back in the wallet. Where's the wallet? In the car that's on fire.
And this is essential for him to put the credit card back because that is a move of a guy who didn't want 100% steal it. So that's the thing about Del. You can't 100% hate him because he does take advantage of situations, but he always tries to make it right or make amends in his clumsy, ham-handed way that he can. And that's why you can't 100% hate him. Same thing, but Neil is such an a-hole that when he has the card switched or whatever, you don't 100% feel bad for Neil either because he's such an a-hole. It's kind of a weird kind of karmic justice. So
no, absolutely. Well, that's the thing. Is like we are with each of these characters at various times of the movie.
Yeah.
We are against each of these characters at various times of the movie. We feel they got what they deserved at various times of the movie, and we feel that they've both been abused at various times of the movie. And the thing about Del, which is like we have certainly known people, you and I know people in common that are very naturally taking advantage of a situation that they're in and probably aren't really aware of a lot of it.
Yeah.
They just kind of go through life.
Yeah.
And they go, well, this, and they wouldn't consider themselves a bad person for taking advantage of those situations.
Right.
So then the smoking car pulls into the motel.
So great.
And this is what the movie does. It subtly pushes what reality is. Because apparently it's still burning. Their hands are sucked into the melting dashboards. They step out of the smoking, just bare metal seats. They get in the motel. He tries to pay with his major credit cards that are all burnt. It's a funny bit.
Yeah.
Pulls out his $17 and his probably extremely expensive watch to get a room. He leaves. Del pulls out his $2 and tries to sell that Casio. And he ends up sitting in the car in the snow.
And we have another moment like we had in the hotel room.
Yeah.
Where this moment of reflection, and he says,
Well, Marie, once again, my dear, you were as right as rain. I am, without a doubt, the biggest pain in the butt that ever came down the pike. I meet someone whose company I really enjoy. What do? I go overboard. I smother the poor soul.
He has accepted his fate. He's going to sit out there in that car all night with as much clothes as he can get on so that he doesn't freeze to death and sleep out in the car.
Which, by the way, he really is going to die. I mean, like that, it's snowing out. It is cold.
Yeah.
And
this is the one time he's not doing something for attention or to have Neil save him from the situation.
You don't
he
think?
has no other option. I don't think so. I don't think he's no other. Because he has that moment of self-reflection, to me, he's not doing it in a way that's manipulative. He's just sitting out there because he's accepted his fate.
See, this is where I don't know. I kind of, it's hard to say because he is sitting in the car right in front of.
Yeah, he's got nowhere else to sit.
And I don't know. This is where I don't know. Because this is not a good plan. You know what I mean? Like, because this is like, you're going to die.
Well, I think that's what I mean. I think he's resigned to his fate.
Yeah. And I think he's going, come on, Neil.
You do.
I don't know. Okay. I don't know the answer. Right. Well, this is the problem, with the movie. Yeah. And Neil's in this interesting motel room with twin beds, very important, because it had been a single bed. He might have behaved slightly differently.
True.
And opens up the door and says, you're going to freeze to death, and invites Neil in. And they have a really fun night.
Right.
They laugh, and they're drinking little bottles of rum and tequila, and it's fun.
When you strip it all down, we're men. And men have a way of like going through a shit ton of stuff together but then want to have that camaraderie. They want to have that connection. And so that's why this scene feels very real, even with all the shit they've gone through. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I thought about, he does the Jamaican accent. Yeah. And I think it's so interesting to have a guy who's a world-class professional comedy person have to do a joke in an accent from a character who is not a world-class professional comedy person.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? He has to do it in the right way.
Yeah.
And then there's this great moment where they talk about their wives, and we both love our wives. And Neil says to Del, you really love her, don't you?
Love is not a big enough word. It's not a big enough word for how I feel about my wife.
To the wives.
To the wives!
That's your first kind of hint.
Well, that and him in the car saying, I wish you were here right now, but I guess that's never going to happen.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
He doesn't say never. He says not. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So it just leaves the door open. Yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't suspect.
You don't suspect the first time you saw it. No, and that's what's a great twist in the movie.
And they really have gone like, we're going to laugh about this in the future, which to me, I think we talked about that. I don't remember what other film, but like the great disaster on your road trip, those are the stories you tell forever.
Yeah.
That's the funny stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay, it's the next day. Got to push the car out. Try pushing it. Steve Martin is not a good car pusher.
No.
I mean, he's got like leather-soled shoes, so it's not like he's going to get any traction. And I also wonder, like, there's a guy with a lot more body mass and probably strength. Why is he not pushing the car?
Right.
Then we say we're going to rock it. We put it in reverse, slam into the motel.
Oh. But Steve goes, let's go. Let's get out of here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Love that.
And they don't have their credit cards. They probably don't have their names. They go out driving. They're singing together.
Yes.
They're having a good time. And then they get pulled over by the highway patrol.
Right. Michael McKean.
Apparently the scene was much bigger and it got cut down.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. But I don't know what it is. Michael McKean is great.
Yeah.
And particularly now seeing him in Better Call Saul. He's so good. I love the line, do you feel it's safe for highway traffic? Yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do. Yes, I really do. I believe that. I know it's not pretty to look at, but it'll get you where you want to go.
I love how he tries to, and this speaks to his nature. He does have a good nature, even though he's childish. He has a good nature when he says, like, "Look, you got me, absolutely. You're right, but like, I got to get this guy home." And Neil has regressed to almost a homeless person.
Yeah,
right, because he's all bundled up and he's like, and he's smiling through the dirt stain still on his face and the overgrown beard or the hair growth he's got on his face. All of it.
And he makes an impassioned speech.
Yes.
And there's a pause and we're impounding the car.
Right.
The car gets towed.
Right.
And by the way, I looked it up. Driving from Wichita to Chicago is a 10-hour drive.
Holy shit.
Driving from St. Louis to Chicago is a 4-hour drive.
Wow.
So man, they take 5 days to do this.
Yes.
It's a lot. Or maybe it's not 5 days.
Yeah, it's 5 days.
5 days. Okay. All right. The car's impounded. And again, they're kind of split up, and he's trying to figure out how he's going to get somewhere, and up pulls a truck.
Yeah.
And he says, okay, as long as we're not going to be anywhere cold, and we end up in the back of the refrigerated truck.
But the score it's an uplifting score now when they're going in the truck.
We're getting close.
Yeah, we're
close. Genuinely getting close. And they make it.
They make it to the train station.
We're in the train station in the Chicago at the L, and they have a really nice goodbye.
Finally.
Yeah.
A legitimately sweet goodbye.
Yeah, after all said and done, you got me home.
Steve's learned his lesson.
Yeah.
It's been great meeting you, Neil. It really has. Again, I'm sorry if I caused you any trouble.
Oh, no, you didn't cause me any trouble. You got me home. And a little late, a couple days. But I'm a little wiser, too, so.
Me too.
And then there's a hug. Mm-hmm. And you're kind of feeling good.
Yeah, and he references Marie.
Yeah.
Say hello to Marie for me. I feel like I know her.
Yeah.
And then Steve gets on the train.
Great Dream Academy song.
Yeah.
Who did Life in a Northern Town. They do this song, Power to Believe, which is fantastic.
And you see a lot of emotion on Dell. Mm-hmm. And Steve's thinking. And what's he thinking about? He's thinking about his family.
Yeah.
Kids. And Thanksgiving food. And then he thinks about Dell.
Yeah.
And he starts to laugh. Because he's gotten to that point about the ridiculousness of the journey. And then his mind goes to that moment that we talked about in the fight.
I like me. My wife likes me.
And then you got a woman you love to grow old with.
Yeah.
And then he starts to figure it out. And then we hear this line of, I haven't been home in years.
I haven't been home in years. I haven't been home in years.
Which is when we should have talked about. That was in the diner.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't been home in years.
So that's probably the first kind of
That's an odd line. Yeah. What does that mean? I haven't been home in years. Mm-hmm. And then we're back at the station, and Neil finds Dell sitting there alone.
Dell, what are you doing here?
And what's funny is this is the great thing about film. Of course, I knew because I've seen the movie before. I know where we're getting to. It still gets me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It hits you like a ton of bricks.
Well, it's because the song is great, playing over his memories of things, and we've had enough groundwork laid with scenes with Dell where we know this is a sad soul. And so when he comes back and sees him, and Dell body posture is fantastic. John Candy's acting here. He looks like a 5-year-old who's sitting waiting to talk to the principal.
Yeah.
It's just so sad.
And when he says, you know,
I don't have a home. Marie's been dead for 8 years.
Fuck. Every time, Steve, every time I get emotional.
Me too.
Every
Me too.
single time.
Yeah. And it's funny, and this is something I wanted to say earlier, is like, if you don't have a home, of course you got to wash your socks in the sink.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And if you don't have you're living alone, motel to motel, different motel every night, of course, yeah, sure, you throw your underwear on the floor.
Yeah.
You do whatever you do. You're not only you're a bachelor, but you're in a non-permanent space.
Oh, good point.
You know what I mean? So it's like you don't even have to. A maid's going to come in and clean up that place, and you're going to be gone at the next place.
Right.
So you're not. It's not your house. Yep. And so a lot of his behavior comes from the fact that this Neil is actually visiting Dell's life.
Yep.
Which is planes and trains and automobiles and strange motels.
Mm-hmm.
That's all he had. All these people, Gus in the motel and those are his only friends.
That's probably the original title of the film. And Strange Motels.
And Strange Motels. Yeah. And again, a great reaction from Steve Martin, just really taking it all in. And then there's that fantastic shot of the two of them walking down the middle of the street. I don't know why you do that. Holding the big trunk.
Because it's a movie. That's why you do it.
Because it's a movie.
Yeah.
And you walk up to the house, and he gets this big welcome, and he introduces Dell to his family.
Yeah, man.
And this great moment when his wife says hello to him.
I'd like you to be a friend of mine.
That's great acting, man. She doesn't have a lot of scenes in the film, but delivers that line with gratitude in her voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a wonderful moment, too, as Dell's sort of taking all that in, and Neil has the first real embrace with his wife, and we cut to Dell. We cut to John Candy, and his reaction shot is so filled with happiness for his friend.
Yeah, sure.
And loss at his, that's what it is to have a wife.
Right.
That's great.
Yep.
And it's interesting, too, because I think about it, and I'm like, what is the meaning of Thanksgiving?
Right.
And the meaning of this is the meaning, is to be with family.
To give thanks.
To give thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because it's not a movie throughout, but it has a wallop at the end.
And they're both redeemed at the end, which is great.
And they're both still flawed.
Yes.
They've learned lessons, they've improved, but Dell's still Dell. And
they're friends.
And they're friends.
By the end, they're friends.
I don't know how long this friendship is going to go.
I think it'll be there for a while.
And this movie got the reviews that John Hughes had wanted. And it did very well in the box office.
Yep.
And it's become one of those, I don't know, call it a minor classic, like a beloved,
certainly beloved.
A beloved movie that people really go back to. Certainly, obviously, you have.
Yeah.
And so one thing that kind of have to bring up, which is John Hughes retires from film in 1994, 7 years after this. Apparently, he was really shocked by John Candy's death.
Yeah.
And then Hollywood just got too much for him. Is that he for those first several films, he really had total artistic control because he was making small movies and nobody really messed with him.
Yeah.
And then at the late 80s and early 90s, and apparently some specific films where he just, Hollywood became very corporate and he's in boardrooms with people talking about each individual line and does someone have to say that? And he was passionate about what he's doing and he wasn't happy.
It became a big money business.
Yeah. And he went, this doesn't make me happy. And apparently, so he went back to Chicago and he got a big piece of land and he's like kind of just outside of Chicago and even farming and, stuff like that. And apparently he kept writing.
Oh, yeah.
And there are all sorts of John Hughes scripts that we're never going to see.
Yeah.
And then he, like John Candy, died of a heart attack in 94. In 2009, at the age of 59, John Hughes died of a heart attack.
Yeah.
And that's just tragic to me.
That's all I'm going to go.
Yeah?
I don't want to be around too long, Steve. 70 is the limit. I'm good.
I want to go forever.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Knock yourself out.
Well, I probably will. And of course,
Crescent kick to the balls.
100 years from now, you're still around going, Steve Morris.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah,
if I'm still around 100 years.
The other thing that I was thinking at the end is it's like John Candy makes me sad.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
John Hughes makes me really sad because he's just so great and so special.
Yeah.
You know what else makes me sad? Steve Martin.
Oh, yeah?
Because he stopped.
Yeah.
You know, I totally respect. He wants to play the banjo, and he's doing a musical, and he's a great writer. And I've read a bunch of his books, and he has the right to do exactly what he wants. But I love Steve Martin.
Yeah,
there's a whole bunch of movies there, and his comedic sensibility. Yeah, I miss it.
Yeah.
These three guys are not doing this anymore.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a shame.
Yeah. So, what are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are this is one of my favorite films ever. I'll never put it in the top 10 or like Citizen Kane or anything like that, but it is a film that there's always a section of films in your life when you love films that you go back to and revisit a million times that bring the entire journey rewatching it. You relive it all over again and it becomes nostalgia for you. And this film is definitely that. I have so many amazing feelings about this film whenever I see it. I love these two guys so much. I know these two guys. I've met these two guys. I've spent time with these two guys in my real life. And I don't mean Steve Martin and John Candy. I mean these characters. And so I know them and I know this journey. I know the frustrations they feel and the kind of childish way of trying to get out of things that they do. So to me, it's a fantastic film that I always enjoy revisiting and makes me feel just warm inside. And it always reminds me of family and it reminds me of Thanksgiving. And I love the winter time, and this film is set during that time as well. And so to me, the whole thing is wrapped around this incredible feeling of nostalgia and love.
That's great. You know what? I think I'm going to stick with what I already said.
Yeah.
I miss these three guys.
Yeah.
I really do.
That's a great way
This is a great combination of people making just a really complicated, funny, difficult, and in the end, really heartwarming film.
And an enjoyable world to visit that John Hughes creates.
That
you
Hughes
pointed
world.
out with all these great actors he's cast in these smaller roles. They give the world life.
Yeah, and I think at some point we need to go through on your theory and figure out exactly who was going where at what time, and how this all was working.
Right.
All right, so that's what we think about Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. As always, we want to hear what you think. Please visit us on our Facebook page. Please visit us on your Facebook page at Cine-Files, CINE-FILES.com. If you want to purchase any of the movies that we talk about, you can visit us on our website at cinephiles.net, CINE-FILES.net. You can also listen to every single one of our reviews there. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, on Stitcher, on YouTube. You can leave comments on YouTube. You can leave reviews on iTunes. We've gotten some great reviews lately. We really, really appreciate them. If you want to choose a movie that we review, you can do so by becoming a patron on Patreon, patreon.com/Cine-Files. And as always, you can reach me at SR Morris on Twitter. John, where can they reach you?
You guys can always reach me at The Roca Says on Twitter and on Instagram. And then every Tuesday, the Top 10 show on the SK Plus podcast channel. And every Thursday morning or Thursday-ish type thing, you'll get the Outlaw Nation, which has been a bit more fluid than I expected lately because I'm incredibly busy. So.
Well, the Outlaw Nation is a complicated nation with a lot of internal conflicts.
Whoa, I wouldn't say that. We just kind of marched to our own beat. That's what I would say. Our own drum, rather.
It's a great country. Wasn't there someone trying to actually form Outlaw Nation? Like actually an actual change to create a government?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Roconopolis was the capital.
Roconopolis.
Is the capital, yeah.
It's a great country, people. You got to join.
Come visit.
I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Yes.
I hope you make it home to see your family or whatever it is you want to do. Have the food you want, watch the sports you want, live it the way you want to live it. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone, and maybe revisit this film and show it to your family for the first time. You never know.
It's a good plan.